Yo, so this is going to be part two or just an add-on to my most recent video, Donald Trump, the Beast, and Elon Musk, the false prophet. I, I can't confirm that Elon Musk is the false prophet. I was even thinking about this idea that I had, where how do you figure out who that character is based on, even with what I'm doing, is based on, well, what pattern does the beast, seven-headed beast thing, seven to eight-headed beast thing fit? And it just seems to fit the president since I was born. And since I'm a guy that it seems like I have some sort of power or authority over the natural world that I don't see anybody else having. And I clearly do have it. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm using After Effects or something to add, you know, like lightning to the videos where I'm doing this stuff. Like that's just me at the window, and like even if I don't have the camera on, stuff like that happens. But when I turn the camera on, it's almost like Yahweh's making a show, uh, because I really believe, and I think I believe in the way that Yahweh and Jesus are asking, and that I'm hitting key points that other people just miss. One of those key points is literally one of the things that it talks about at the seven churches of Revelation, and that's that I stick to the name, that I hold to the name, and I think that the name that it's talking about is Yahweh, because that's the easiest way to like differentiate the God of the Bible from any other God. I mean, it's like, well, how do we differentiate people? Oh, names? Duh. You know what I mean? Like, so what his name is like a huge element. Islam drops the name. All the other yet claims it's the same God. And if you read the Old Testament, there is no way in hell Yahweh is dropping his name to like say he's just deity. You know what I mean? That's what God means. That's what Allah means. And like I've said, Allah is a feminine singular title in Hebrew. So, you know, it just seems pretty obvious to me that the name thing is important. But I was thinking about like, well, what about the false prophet thing? And my reasoning on Elon Musk was who joined Trump's side and like Trump. I noticed that over the summer after the assassination attempt, his popularity kind of like shot up. And I also noticed that when Trump, when Trump kind of added Elon Musk, or when they started, what was that? They called him like the first buddy or something. Like when Elon started kind of fighting for Trump and putting money into his campaign and stuff like that, all of a sudden Trump's got kind of a, Elon Musk has like an ethos to him in the sense of, in rhetoric, there's like different ways that people look at you, at what you're saying, and he has an ethos, like a character that he's built over time that people know about as being like intelligent and good at making money, and he seems to be good at a lot of things that he does and stuff like that. Now I don't know if all of it's real, as I brought up. Like I think if he's not being honest with the video game thing, where he's like playing Path of the Exile and saying he's like one of the best in the world. Same thing with Diablo, but in Path of the Exile, it's people who are actually like experts at the game, or at least they know a lot about the game, are looking at it and just pointing out how he is not as competent as he's claiming in a way that is just easy to understand. Yeah, he would pick those things up. Like you don't pass those up if you're a seasoned veteran of this game, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's certain obvious things that he's not doing that he would be doing if he played the game no matter what. It's not like our opinion that he would do this. If he was an expert at the game, he would do this. So basically they're even saying like, well, he actually just looks like a novice. You know what I mean? And or a noob. And that obviously he has people playing for him, and then he gets on. And my thought has been like, well, what else is he doing that with? I'm sure a lot of things, actually, is my guess. So because there's that biblical concept where Jesus is like, the faithful, the servants, the where the master gives out 10 talents and 5 talents and 1 talent, and the guy with 10 talents goes and makes 10 more or whatever, or like doubles it. And the guy's like, good on you, good faithful servant. You've been faithful with a little, or you've been faithful with much or whatever, but you'll be, here's even more. And I trust you with more because you were with more than 10 because you were faithful with 10. Same thing with the guy who did 5. He doubles it or whatever, and the guy's like, "Hey, well, good job, faithful servant. You've shown that you're like trustable with a little, and so here's more. Here's a lot. So if you can be trusted with a little, you can be trusted with a lot." The last guy goes and buries the talent because he says to the and then he pulls the talent back out. So like the gold or whatever, it's gold or some form of money, but he buries it and then pulls it back out of the ground and then gives it to his master because what he says is like, well, I know you're a harsh man, reaping where you don't sow. In other words, I know you're harsh, so I just didn't want to lose your money. And the guy's like, the master basically goes like, if I knew that was what you were gonna do with it, I would have I would have at least I could have given my money to the bankers and then gotten back my money with interest. And so he basically says like, to the guy like, you can't be trusted. And the idea is that uh, to this narrative that I'm explaining, like with Musk, is that like if Musk can't be trusted talking about video games, and I was even watching a thing with like Shane Gillis was actually it was a Asmongold thing again, reacting to Shane Gillis, and he's basically saying like lying about video games is something you do as a kid. You don't do like once you're past puberty, like you don't do that. You know what I mean? And so, and I kind of agree, but my point is more that like, well, I don't think he's trustworthy with this small thing. If he's willing to lie about this small thing to like pump up his ego or his, how about this, his, I like to differentiate between the Eastern concept of ego and the Western concept. The Western concept ego comes from the word Greek, and it's literally the I, like who you are. But if it's to pump up his pride about how important he is, I think that that's what he's doing there, and it's like, well, that's a tell that probably in bigger things you're lying, and that you aren't actually doing as much work, and that you aren't really, probably my biggest guess, or my guess here, is that he has a team of people that mostly does the work. I mean, this is what people have levied against him in the past, but is that, I mean, on everything is what I'm suggesting. And I've even said, I brought this up with my mom, and I said, like, I think it's like a foreign country running Elon Musk. Like, he's just an asset for, I don't know, wherever. He's from South Africa, but like, and my thought process behind it, my mom thinks I'm crazy. She's like, oh, it's conspiracy theory. And I'm just okay, well, at least let me explain, get out my thought on like, Elon Musk is, he has factories in like China and stuff like that. And he goes to China and meets with like high level dignitaries and stuff. And they're okay with him. He's an American citizen, though he's from South Africa. He's an American citizen who like lives in America. A lot of the times they are not very trustworthy of people like that in China and just elsewhere. I mean, it's understandable because each nation has their own interests. Um, and whether I agree with the Chinese Communist Party or not, it makes sense. It's like a wise action that they would put people like an American citizen, or someone who operates here in America considerably, like a large company, they would put him under greater scrutiny. And yet he always comes out of these things with like special privileges to do stuff in China. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm just like, well, how the fuck did he swing that one? And my guess is that he's not completely loyal to the United States of America, and they understand that. And maybe he doesn't even have to say anything out loud, and there's just a, you know what I'm saying, like a wink here and a wink there, and when the time comes, they do what they need to. And even here, the thought about the beast from the earth is that he has the authority of some kind of like system, some Satan, essentially Satan's system. And I think that that's the thing that has control over world governments. And whether that's out of America or China or whatever, it's like, it seems that the beast from the sea and the beast from the earth are connected to some kind of satanic entity. I mean, they directly are. They get the authority from Satan, and they're allowed to do what that is. Now, as an American, I'm looking that there's a oppositional adversarial hegemony to the American European, like, friendly nations in South America, kind of coalition. And that is this like Russian, Iranian, Chinese, whatever. You know what I mean? North Korea, like that axis. And so like in America, we don't name bombs Satan, and in Russia, they literally have a bomb called that they call Satan. You know what I mean? And however, America does name things after other deities that aren't Yahweh. So, sometimes I'm like, this is all weird. It's all weird to me. Like like, you know what I mean? But they claim to be Christians supposedly in Russia, but I mean, I can't verify any of that. You know what I mean? So, lots of people claim to be Christian. At the end of the Bible, there's literally a group of people claiming to be Jews, and they're just using it as a cover to, I guess empower literally Satan. So I mean, like, what is that? Is that like Russian Jews or something? I don't know. I'm not. That's not what this video is to speculate on, actually. But I did want to kind of add on a bit about the Elon Musk thing. And one of my thoughts with the false prophet thing is there's not a bunch of like false prophets mentioned in um Revelation, and one other false prophet specifically that it does mention is a false prophetess. And I talk about this all the time, but that's Jezebel, and that's in Revelation 2:20. I think it's 2:18 through whatever the end of the chapter is. But specifically Jezebel's mentioned in 2:20. And she is a false prophet of a sect of people called the Nicolaitans. And I think the idea of the Nicolaitans is that there's a bunch of celebrities and wealthy people and whatever that don't like the fact that probably that I'm on some kind of throne of power, or they just don't like God. They don't like Jesus. They don't like God. And just like in Iran, where in the 70s or whenever the Islamic Revolution happened, the leftists helped like the Islamic regime get in power, and then were immediately betrayed and executed. You know what I mean? But like, I just see the same kind of stupidity from like celebrities, where these people like they just are so self-involved, but they lack awareness completely. They are completely unaware of what's going on. They have more money than your average people. They live in communities where even like a poor person is wealthier than anybody. You know what I mean? And like like the Palisades, even the cheapest homes in the Palisades were worth like millions of dollars, and that is abnormal. So if that's your only understanding of like a neighborhood, not all neighborhoods are like that. Not all communities are like that. And like those are the types of people that even when you have people that come from more disadvantaged situations, when they move into that lifestyle, they just like, if you even want to be there or live there and you aren't just completely steeled in your mind, I think it like kind of takes over. It's like a brain, you know what I mean? It just takes over it's like a brainwashing type thing where like you lose sight of what's important and what is real, and you're not like down to earth anymore as far as your understanding. You might not be a completely mean person, and I don't even think like a lot of these people think that they're what they're doing is wrong, but they're driving it's like if I've told you there's one direction we can go, that's the kingdom of heaven where nobody dies anymore. You can't have that under Islam, you can't have that under other religions, because in Christianity there is a hierarchy, there is a person on a throne over everything. There is just a reality that takes us to the kingdom of heaven. But everybody wanted to do all this other shit. Just logics out. Like if a computer had to look into it, it wouldn't make sense what those things are talking about to get to a place where nobody dies anymore. Maybe you could get to a place where you could be like a Satan character and snake off power for yourself and like live forever, or at least live until you're caught. And I think that's what the Satan character is, or something like that. But in the least, this whole point that I'm making here is that I think I was talking about the Nicolaitans, some group of people that's like their name literally means destruction of the people, right? Or victory over the people, or something of that sort. And I think the idea is whatever this group is some people that attack me. And like I've brought up numerous times in coordination with Alessandra Ambrosio, I think Alessandra Ambrosio is I think she's Jezebel. And, as I've brought up, like the false prophetess idea, I'm also saying, like, well, since the beast from the earth is literally a false prophet, I was thinking for a bit, like, maybe actually the beast from the earth is Jezebel. Um, the reason I don't think that is because I can't make those timelines mesh, however hard I try. Like, the beast from the earth dies relatively late on in the tribulation. I believe Jezebel dies right before the tribulation starts, or right as it starts. Like it's literally the thing. Like if Alessandra Ambrosio, if Anja and Noah Ambrosio, or like hypothetically Alessandra Ambrosio is Jezebel. If my biological children, or who look like my biological children, I mean, do a DNA test, but I'm pretty sure it would be verified that those are my biological children. If it turned out that this celebrity, along with a number of other celebrities, have been participating in some kind of rape attack on my reality, forced breeding is a form of rape. That's why I say it's a rape attack. I'm not going to drop that concept. You're a bunch of fucking rapists. You don't get to decide whether you breed me or not. Especially like you're not even the women or woman that was participating. You're just a random fucking woman that decided she could breed me. That's some evil shit, and you deserve to die for it when you aren't actually helping me. If you were helping me, there could be grace. But, I think that's the idea is I've come to the conclusion, the thing that it's talking about where it talks about to the person conquering at the seven churches, you forgive the woman Jezebel. Like, hold on. Right, if we pull this up and we go here, hold on. I'll be going back to this page where I'm at, but if we go here and we look at the where it talks about Jezebel here, I think her teaching, the idea is that she's trying to teach that you can lie, and like basically she's using her like grace as a license to continue to act evil, and evil towards me, and drive that another reality into existence that cannot work, at least not for everybody else. And it's so this group of people, like the celebrities or whatever that I'm talking about, can continue to steal away attention and money and power to do fuck all with it. They don't do anything other than enrich themselves, and then they make up like, oh, they do token acts of charity, and like, they pretend to support these causes, which is why usually they're on the left, because it's not that the left is inherently wrong, because you need a left and a right to be balanced. It's that the causes they promote are not inherently the ones that are actually going to fix any of the problems. They are inherently toxic. Which is why I think the idea is that she's like, using some kind of adulterous lifestyle to corrupt people. And maybe, the idea is to use Anja and Noah as like, as like they're doing child porn or something with them in order to hurt me. and it's just like me forgiving them gives them license, like me not just forgiving but saying like, well, come and if I'm your dad, then like I'd like to be your dad. But it's like I think the whole point of this is like I am never going to be their dad in actuality, in the sense of like I can be their biological father, but Alessandra Ambrosio is not going to be good to me. She has no intention of like making me their dad. She raised them against me, like adversarially in a satanic fashion against me. There's probably a bunch of blackmail and evil shit connected to specifically um, I don't know, high level politicians and celebrities where they've probably been raping my, biological children. And I think the idea here is that Yahweh says, it says I'll see that her children die, but what it actually says in Greek is, I will kill her with death. If we go here, and all her partners in adultery. So all the men that are participating in this, you're gonna die. Else you repent, but you ain't repenting to me. Like I don't forgive you. You know what I mean? I don't forgive anybody associated with this Jezebel thing. There's nothing you could do for me that makes up for how evil this thing is and how knowingly evil you're being by like participating with this thing with Alessandra. So like you know, you definitely aren't my brethren for me to forgive you. You are active enemies, and it's like, honestly, if I was going to love you as Christians are supposed to, the love would be to get rid of you for your own good, and for the good of humanity, to see that there is justice, right? Because to allow this to continue is unjust or injustice in itself. But one thing that I want to pull up is we'll just So like here, the thing is, we can look at it in all sorts of translations, but I will kill her children with death. I will kill her children with death, kill her children. This says followers, but it doesn't say that. It just says children. And this says with pestilence, thoroughly annihilating them, but it doesn't say that. It just says with death. However, she gets thrown on a sick bed, and I was assuming for a while, oh, maybe it is part of the fourth church thing because the fourth seal has to do with a plague and pestilence and stuff like that. And like I've said, the four church the all the churches, like the number of the church is equal to the number of the seal, the number of the trumpet, the number of the plague. Churches, seals, trumpets, plagues, they're all equal in number. I would even suggest maybe the head of the beast is also equal to something related to those churches. I would even say, just like I don't know if I've said this before, but in Daniel there's different animals represented, and there's heads on each of those animals. Like the first animal, the first beast thing from Daniel 7 is a lion, and then some other stuff, and maybe that represents like England, or whatever, some kind of lion representative. But if you Google like what country does a lion represent? My computer's chugging along here. What is going on? Dude, why do these websites always suck? This is like 3 gigabytes of RAM for a Bible website. Come on, man. Hold on, I'm just gonna quickly read this real fast. I'll kill her children with death, strike her children with death, or strike her children dead. Is that the Counter Strike? um, put her children to death with disease. It doesn't say that. It just says, we'll look at it in Greek real fast. But long story short, you can read all these. As they play their sex and religion games, the bastard offspring of their idol. What is this? This one? But I will. This translation takes insane license here. But why do you let that Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet, mislead my dear servants into cross-denying, self-indulging religion? I gave her a chance to change her ways, but she has no intention of giving up a career in the God business. I am about to lay her low along with her partners as they play their sex and religion games. The bastard offspring of their idol whoring I'll kill. Then every church will know that appearances don't impress me. I x-ray every motive and make sure that you get what's coming to you. To be honest, that's kind of like the idea of what's going on. It just doesn't say that directly in the language. And what I think, you can read here, you can pause it. It basically says, I'm going to kill her children with death. That is literally what it says, actually. And we can look at that in. So this is, I look at the Q Bible, and this is probably where QAnon is a IP knockoff of whatever here. It's like, QAnon. No, it's Q Bible. Uh, you know, some kind of satanic thing jacking because even in this version, right, notice that it says after Satan, or learned the secrets of Satan, Q. So or little Q. But okay. um if you go here to 23, right, and we read it, it literally just says, I will kill her children with death. And you can see this is also similar to that. Also notice this page doesn't take up 3 gigabytes of RAM, 3.5 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, Jesus. Bible.com, come on. Or Bible Gateway, come on. That's ridiculous. My computer was chugging along there. Chugging along. Okay, when it says kill her, like kill her children with death. Kill, like this is the word kill, slay, right? Kill, put to death, kill. Child, children, technon, children, produced. In, by, with, death, thanatos. Ton et os, or ton et os, or than et os, thanatos. I'm just fucking around with the name pun stuff. But anyway, so so that all the ecclesia churches know that I am he that searches. And then this is from Jeremiah. So kill with death. Compare the disaster that took the literal Jezebel's votaries of Baal and Ahab's sons. Kill with death is a Hebraism for slay with most sure and awful death. So dying, thou shalt die, as it says in Genesis. Not the not die the common death of men from Numbers. So like the idea is they're gonna die a terrible death, and some of it's like, if Anja, Noah, and Brojo are my children and they're playing along and their mom is doing some evil stuff, like what I'm even gonna suggest here in a minute is like, I guess I could just suggest it now. Buck Palmer, I brought up that he kind of like looks like Trump, and I'm like, is that Trump's like secret kid or some shit like that? And I'm like, probably what's gonna happen. Actually, now that I'm thinking about this, probably Trump is gonna get her pregnant or something. And it's like literally that's the idea of him being a beast. And that would also be enough for a court to then rule in my favor. And he talked about he's the father of IVF, and also the whole Mel Gibson, who I brought up in several videos, and then all of a sudden Trump, from Daddy's Home too, when you can go back in my videos because they've literally changed the search. Oh no, they didn't. I mean, it's gone back now, but she's like the top billing, and then next is Mel Gibson, and it's like, um, I think the idea is just something to like make me feel uncomfortable and to suggest some evil shit that they're doing. And she lives right next to Mel Brooks, so maybe it's like actually a name swap thing. But in any instance, they added, Trump added Mel Gibson after I made those videos, almost immediately after, to some kind of special. He made him some kind of special ambassador to Hollywood. And like I brought up, he's just a fake Christian like all these other fake Christians, which not everybody who's a Christian is a fake Christian, but if you're participating in this, you inherently are not a Christian. And like he's also the guy who made a bunch of money off Jesus' name. And remember when they put Jim Caviezel on the cross for him to like mock Jesus? I mean, they didn't put it as like, oh, we're mocking Jesus, but they put him on the cross and then he got struck by lightning, right? You can look up that story, but it's like, okay, I think the guy who's doing lightning stuff at the window, and I'm telling you, I'm cooperating with Yahweh. He's doing all the work. It's not like, I can trigger it, but like he's doing all the work. Yahweh does all the work. And it probably, matches like it's coming out of the spirit of Yahweh, which is in me, because that's shared with Yahweh, right? But he's doing all the work. So if it struck Jim Caviezel and knock off Jesus guy, yeah, I think it's like, I think it's some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And anyway, uh, so my guess is that they picked Buck Palmer because if she's gonna have a kid, if he looks like Buck Palmer and Buck Palmer looks like Trump, if it's Trump's kid, then you might be able to get away with it looking like Trump. Trump, you know what I mean? That like him doing this evil thing. And also, my whole point with this is like we go back in my thing. Like, hold on, Mel Gibson, Trump daddy, because he called Trump daddy. Gushes over, yeah, the Hindustan Times. Or how about this? USA Today a week ago. Mel Gibson, and this is right after I literally made another video where I brought this up. Mel Gibson praises Trump's California visit amid LA wildfires. It's like daddy arrived. So it's like daddy's home. Yeah, he used to be a celebrity. I mean, that was the whole thing that got Trump elected. Is he was a celebrity. And I think these are all liars and phonies. His house burned down. You know what I mean? Like, I think his house burned down because he's doing some evil shit. I think the whole Palisades fire thing started because they're doing evil shit. It's not like I don't see any real Christians in that community. I think there's also a reason why this dude's fucking app or whatever got what's that called? That whatever his like Christian app is. Hold on. Hallow? Yeah, okay. Um, I think Pray Every Day with Mark Wahlberg, Jonathan Rumi, and millions of others. If he's participating in like that and you're praying with him, you're praying with someone who's acting satanic and like I think people know it, and so that's why they removed the app from something. But you know what I mean? It just seems like bullshit to me, and I don't believe they're Christians for 1 minute. I don't believe anything associated with Alessandro Ambrosio is Christians for 1 minute, and so the whole point of this was to bring up though that it very clearly, and I guess also to say the thing about Buck Palmer and Donald Trump, like that also makes sense as to why. Like I'm like, why is she dating this idiot? It clearly isn't working. Whatever she was trying to do with him, unless there's something else that she's trying to do with him, or like some point she's trying to get across. And like it just makes more sense to me that this is where that's going, and they're trying to like, you know, if she's the mother of my children, they're gonna get her pregnant by another man. What man would be the most evil to do it? Oh, the beast, which I'm saying is Trump. Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah, okay. Oh, and that's why Buck Palmer, because he has the nose that looks similar. Oh, okay. Hold on. This is Simpsons art on the thing here. Yeah, okay. So anyway, and like, what am I gonna is that gonna kill me? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think so. I think it's just gonna prove like this is why a court would give the power of like power to me. You know what I mean? Like would rule in my favor in this situation. And like I don't think Satan can't do the same things that Yahweh can. He can only snake off power and have like some ability. You know what I mean? He has like some power. He doesn't have the power of Yahweh. It's like he has a position that he's holding and like standing in front of the way of all of existence moving forward. If I take that position and I'm the guy on the throne that's conquering at the seven churches here, right? This is what I'm talking about. The guy on the throne. It says it doesn't say those who prove victorious. It says the one who proves victorious, and it's guaranteed that you have to have the other gifts to have like you have to have all the gifts to be I think the person here. And so you have to be going through the situations, and I don't know any other person that's going through this situation with Alessandra Ambrosio in the same way I am. So, or other women either. So my guess is that's what it is. I do not believe she's on my side for 1 moment. She's had every opportunity to not be a shithead. She's still acting like a shithead. What that infers is that she's a shithead. And I've been saying this. Throw her under the bus. She's got to be the stupidest fucking woman of all time. Like, throw her under the bus. And guess what? When I go to Revelation, at the end of Revelation, and I see that there is a famous prostitute who's thrown under the bus, you know what I mean? Like, then the waters you saw beside the prostitute, they're all sitting around, whatever, all the everything beside which the prostitute was sitting are all the peoples, populations, the nations, and the languages. But the time will come when the tin horns and the beast will turn against the prostitute and strip off her clothes and leave her naked, and they'll eat her flesh and burn their remains in the fire. In fact, God influenced their mind to do what He intended, to agree to put their royal powers at the beast's disposal until the time. So, it's talking about. It then says, at the time when God's word should be fulfilled, the woman you saw is the great city which has authority over all the rulers. Well, remember, Jesus calls himself by the name of a city, but my point with this is like, um, that's like a type of what happens with Jezebel. I think like people, like I think she was doing this, and like the Nicolaitans were giving her a lot of power, right? Whatever group of people that she's working with, and when they see that it's not only is it not going to work, it's the thing that fucked up everything for you guys. You guys played this too loose. I figured it out. Like that's it. You aren't getting past this. There isn't any woman on the planet that is worth like that's worth going through this. Else also this could be Anja Ambrosio, I guess, but I think specifically that thing is talking about like I think that this is Alessandra and her children. Else, maybe it's Lucilda Ambrosio, like her mom, because both the daughters seemingly have bred me without my permission. It just seems really fucked up and evil to me. But anyway, okay, so hold on. All right, I just want to do an IP check. I checked my IP again today, and like the other day, I was in Pakistan, and then I was in New York, and then I was in Pakistan, and then I was in uh, and then I was in Washington, right? On the according to Find My IP, and like I've checked it numerous times since then, and it keeps saying Houston. You know what I mean? After a few moments, it said I was back in Houston after that whole thing, right? But I that would make sense if like someone wasn't paying attention and I looked, and then it showed wherever they were are routing my wherever my IP is coming out of or something, because there's something weird's going on around my digital identity, my digital presence. And so I'm just like, I checked again today and I'm back in Washington, and then I hit refresh and all of a sudden I'm back in Houston again. It's like, oh, it's the same bullshit. So anyway, I just think some evil shit's going on, and zero fucking chance these people win. Zero chance. If there's an ancient book that like has called it this far, you don't think it calls it all the way? You got to be fucking stupid. Like you actually do have to be very unintelligent to believe that. That like if the book is called it this far, you really think you're gonna risk that it doesn't just call it all the way? The answer to that is yeah, they are gonna risk it because they've already gone this far. Though people can repent, they're just choosing not to. Oh, and one of the other things that I'm talking about, by the way, if you go to Revelation here, and it's not just Revelation, it's also in Daniel, which we're about to go to. But notice how it talks about the beast from the earth, and it has saw the beast was like a leopard with paws like a bear and a mouth like a lion, and then the dragon handed over his own power and his worldwide authority. So I think that's the idea: is the three beast things, right? There's a beast, leopard, bear, lion, and then the fourth beast from Revelation, I think, is the dragon. Um, I saw one of its heads seem to have a fatal wound, and like I even think like there was it might even be here. So like one of these things that I not replies, one of these likes that I had, I only liked it because I thought the imagery on it was strange, and like we can go down here. Um, yeah, Greg Abbott reshared this, and it says Canada is planning to target Republican states in retaliation for Trump's tariffs, per New York Times. Bring it, Justin Trudeau. You're about to learn the definition of FAFO, or fuck around and find out. President Trump's going to make an example of you. And then Greg Abbott said, careful, Trudeau, that Texas economy is larger than Canada's, and we're not afraid to use it. I mean, are these people not really the people in charge of Texas? Is my guess that they're part of this thing that's snaking away power. That's probably what's going on because I think the guy on the throne of Jesus here in Texas, the Republican governor. Remember, Republicans always pretend to be Christian. Trump ain't Jesus. That's for damn sure. So just because you don't like the fact that I'd be on the throne of Yahweh, that's going to be a problem for you when it plays out, and it clearly is the case that I'm the guy from conquering at the seven churches in Revelation. But one thing that I'm noticing is just like I'm looking at this and it looks like Trump is flicking off the camera, like the image, whatever image based thing this is flicking off the camera. And then, but I was like looking at Trudeau, and it's kind of an interesting picture. He's like looks kind of confused and puzzled, but it almost to me it seems like something trying to suggest to me like, was Trump actually shot in the head? Like, I mean, he was. He was literally like that was the whole assassination attempt was that it hit him in the ear, right? But I mean, look at his ears. His ears are like so close to the side of his head. Like I don't, like some people have ears that are like wide out, and I could believe that they get hit in the ear and nothing happens. I think the idea is he was not hit in the ear, and if he was, it did more damage than what they're saying. Again, why would he come up? Why would they allow him to like raise his fist and stuff afterwards? It just makes no sense. None of that fucking story makes sense to me, and it seems too in line with what Revelation 13 talks about, where uh, I saw that one of its heads, probably the final head or the fifth head, which then turns into the seventh head, seemed to have a fatal wound, but that deadly injury had healed. You know what I mean? My guess, it says it's a deadly injury. My guess is that getting hit in the head. I mean, that's so fucking miraculous that it hit him in the ear. Even the Garand Thumb episode or video where Garand Thumb like tries to recreate it, and the reticle on the reflex sight, it's either a red dot or a holographic sight or something, but like it's like the full size of Trump's body at the distance that he was shooting. So it has to be just if it hit him in the ear, that's like even like that's like such a small target. It's not like you couldn't recreate. It would be difficult to recreate that with a match grade rifle and a very very good shooter. So like my guess is that he was actually hit in the head, and that something is trying to suggest, through whatever the imagery, like the AI, or was this Greg Abbott trying to suggest that? I don't know. I can't tell you for sure. I would say that Texas would be if the guy on the throne of Yahweh lives here in Texas and Trump is the beast. I think, and he's done some evil shit towards me or participated in this thing where they're covering up some evil shit that's happened to me in accordance with what these women are doing or whatever the fuck is going on. They put some kind of executive order that's like stealing away my reality from me. Yeah, it would benefit Texas and Houston a lot. Like 10% of all the wealth all in the world always will go then to the guy on the throne of Yahweh. Does that like it would make Texas unbelievably wealthy? It would make Houston it would make me unbelievably wealthy. I wouldn't be wealthier than God. I'd be the guy on the throne with all the wealth. You know what I mean? Like I'd be very wealthy. But my guess is that he actually didn't just get hit in the ear. And if he did even get hit in the ear, that it didn't just go through his ear and do nothing, that it probably was a fatal wound, as this says, because it just makes too much sense that that's what's going on to me. If not, prove me wrong. I don't. What are we gonna wait until fucking the year 3000 or something for this ancient prophecy to play out? It seems like it's playing out every day more and more. And to that, okay, so just in this thing, my whole point with the Jezebel thing is that it very clearly says, right at 220 here, that thou sufferest the woman Jezebel who calleth herself a prophetess. She calls herself a prophetess, but she's not. So the idea is that she's a false prophetess, right? Does that make sense? And it's the same word where prophet comes from. So the idea is that she is in kind of inherently a false prophet. But is she the beast from the earth? I don't know. Is this like Nation of Islam and she's the earth and some kind of beast comes from her, as in some kind of child comes from her? Could be. I mean, shit, I don't know. Definitely, even in the Matrix, you notice how first of all, the word matrix, if you go into the Bible, it's this, the word womb means matrix. So something like that. And if you go into, the idea of like following the white rabbit down the rabbit hole and all this shit is just all sexuality based. And I think the idea is that there's been a, a coven of witches or some kind of cult of people that uses sexual strikes to strike people, and they tried it against me, and for whatever reason it didn't work, and they couldn't figure out exactly why, and maybe now it makes a lot more sense. But because I really am the guy. In the least, I'm just like completely like oblivious. How does that sound? That would maybe be the most cold blooded thing. It's like, no, I'm just stupid and unaware. That's all. Don't worry about it. But not that stupid, not that unaware. Turns out I just, for a little while, I got to be stupid and unaware. But, you know, maybe for a long time. I don't know. But we'll get to this video in a second because it's part of what I wanted to look at. But so another thing here. So I think something to do with Jezebel being a false prophetess. Even her name, Ale, Aleph Lamed Hey, that would be the Hebrew equivalent of Allah. I know because you don't take Hebrew from English, you don't take or from Arabic because it's the language that the Arab words come from. Arab is an Arabicized form of Hebrew. That's just the reality. I don't give a fuck what you say. If I fed enough information explaining it to a computer, the computer would verify, yeah, like 90% of this language, I don't know, 90%, a huge portion of the language is just directly Hebrew, Arabicized. And then the other things are probably local jargon and dialect that like got like rolled in. But it is very clearly a knockoff. Just like the Quran is a knockoff of the Bible, just like, it's all not like Allah is a knockoff of Yahweh, but it's spelled Aleph Lamed Hey, right? Ale. That would be Ale. So Alessandra, I think, is probably like, and then the whole Elon Musk thing is, I think Elon is a, it's an oak, or again, also something considered a, as I showed in the previous video, so I'm not going to redo it, but like, if you want to like, hold on, someone just commented on something right now, an hour ago. Oh, new subscriber. Okay. Um, yeah. So, if you want to know what I'm talking about with this, the original video is right here. It's already it has 8 views and a dislike. I think it has more than 8 views, but nobody likes it. Why? Because I think the people, whatever. I'm not saying things that I'm not saying things to be liked. I'm saying things they didn't like Jesus because he told the truth. I just try to tell the truth, and I realize, oh, that's why they don't like Jesus, because people want to have their own truth, and that's not how it works. So, I mean, for like an objective reality, there are some subjective things, but when we're talking about these things, it's like, and remember, it says also, even the elect will be fooled if possible. And it's like, I don't see any Christians. Most Christians are behind Trump. And it's like, if he's the beast, that's a really big fucking problem for y'all, huh? So, but I'm guessing some of that's going to change eventually. Like, I do think during the tribulation period, it's going to get considerably more obvious. But that doesn't mean every Christian is going to be on the right side on this. So, what was I gonna say? Do whatever. If I'm wrong, if I'm wrong about Alessandro Ambrosio, okay, that's my bad. I'm trying to at least figure out what this is. Clearly, there's something going on with I definitely, her kids look like me. They look like me. So you know what I mean. Like, but anyway, go watch this if you want to see the whole thing about Elon and his name meaning oak, and oak is just the same. Like Allah is an oak. An L is another word for an oak. It's a mighty thing. It's like a tree. And I'll even say this, like the movie Avatar, and you have Awa, right? So it's it's a deity, it's a tree, so like an El or an Ella or an Allah, right? And it's called fuck it, I'll just even because it's not even that hard to go and figure this out. So you have Yahweh is a series of vowels. Awa is a series of vowels. Okay, and it just sounds like Hawa, which is like what I think Eve's actual, like how you'd pronounce that. So like I mean, it just seems too obvious to me that that's also an IP knockoff. But like, look, Alessandra Ambrosio and L. This is A-L in Hebrew. But I mean, like, you go down a little bit, right? And you find this word. First of all, Allah. It's the same. This is Aleph Lamed Hey, A-L. And like, this is the letter Hey, but at the end of words, it's usually an A, or, it could be an O. So usually it comes in as an A or an O, but it can also be an E. It's a vowel, essentially, right? And it just depends where it's placed, and it depends on the context, because we don't speak the same language. But, it could come in as an E. So that's why it goes Allah. You know what I mean? You notice how it even changes. Like, these same letters are shown differently, right? Now that it's in Aramaic, you have an additional H added on. Here it's the same thing, and it's not even Aramaic, and it's now spelled Allah. I mean, so an oak, right? So the idea in Avatar. I mean, even this is, if you just jumble around the letters here, Awa, Yawe, right? Okay, fandom. If your web page is not light enough for my computer to run like snappily, I get a 13900K and 64 gigabytes of RAM and a 4090. There is no fucking way any website should be bogging my computer down, even if I'm running everything that I'm running. It should not slow. Like, my computer ramps up when I open certain websites that are too heavy, and like fandom is always one of those websites. But I was surprised the Bible app is one of those too. But I mean, think about what I'm just saying here. So like the Ewa, Ewa, right? Okay, if you take the H out here, Ewa, but Yahweh, right? I mean, it's just like nobody's fucking original. Avatar's just a knockoff of fucking the Bible, just certain biblical concepts that it's like repackaging. And I think what it is that there's powerful AIs and spirits that are fucking using these celebrities and Hollywood and stuff to like repackage reality and just sell it back to you. Sell it to you when you could just get the Bible. Like Game of Thrones, all the violence and nudity and intrigue and drama and stuff that you'd find in Game of Thrones or Spartacus and all that, if you did a Bible series, it would be even more intense than all those things. I mean, it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like actually like an accurate to an accurate and like gritty version of the Bible. It would just be literally, it would be more, um, it would be like, some parts would literally be what you would consider pornographic if you were to show what was being told in the story. It's just like, whoa. But anyway, my whole point with this is like, L, this word L, and then you go Allah here, and it's Ella, right? Terebinth, a tree, an oak, right? And then remember that the idea here is that you keep going down and like, which word? Oh, hold on. I know how to get to it. Hold on. So you click this one. No, this one, and then you click AIL, 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 and then you click this one, and owl. Oh no, hold on. You don't even gotta do that. You just go down here, and Elon, Terebinth. Oh, a tree. So a tree, an oak, right? Elon, an oak from. Oh, because this AIL is a tree. It just like, look, from the same as this, properly strength, hence anything strong, specifically a chief politically, also a ram from his strength, a pilaster, a strong support, an oak or a strong tree, right? So Anyway, that's my point. Is that like okay, but these words, all these L or al or il words or ale words end up meaning something like strength or and it's a Hebrew word meaning deity. Do I think Yahweh's a tree? Symbolically, to some degree, but no, Yahweh's a spirit that made everything. It's just these things that it's something that lasts long, that's rooted, that has like value to humanity, that like it's a way to tell a story and get some symbolism out of it because there's logic behind the Bible. It's not just random fucking stories, right? There's almost computer logic. I would suggest there's computer logic behind the Bible, and but that I'm not even going to continue down that road. Long story short, Yah is the name of this L, right? And but Allah is just the name of Allah is Allah, and Allah might even mean be Al Ilah, so the L essentially in Arabic. But whatever. I've made my points with that, and I don't need to. But now I'm gonna make this other point, and then I'm gonna move on because that's all this video is like part two, an addendum, in addition to the previous Donald Trump beast, Elon Musk false prophet. Again, I don't know, but I can't be positive that's what that is. But if I'm using my intuition, it just fits to me. It fits. And if you don't like it, you tell me what it means. Because it definitely, like, I see all these things, even in here, like some of the footnotes are just wrong. The Emperor Nero. Well, no, it's not Nero because this shit hadn't already happened yet. It just isn't. So I can tell you it hadn't happened. That being said, I mean, to some degree, like the things from Daniel could be foretellings of these things. And you might even have events that it's mirrored. Like it's almost like the Matrix, right? Where you have like speaking of the Matrix, where you have like a sixth thing that they're like, this is the sixth iteration of the Matrix or whatever. So like the fifth generation has the same kind of ending, right? And it just comes to these same endings until we finally get to the point where Yahweh just has control over everything. And I think that's the one we're on now. And I think that one has to do with what's going on in Revelation, but it's also mentioned in Daniel. So just remember, the whole point that I'm bringing up here is there's a beast like a leopard, paws like a bear, mouth like a lion, and then the fourth thing is a dragon, that breathes fire or has sharp, whenever you see a dragon, it has like teeth and it's like a snake thing with a monster face and right? Okay. Um, so here in Daniel 7, a lot of Revelation is based on from Daniel 7 to Daniel 12. And you can even read here. This is just literally like you read what it says here, and then you go to Revelation 13. It's clearly talking about the same events. The Christian narrative, though, the Christian version has additional information that explains what's going on better than just what it says here. So, like, additional things that it has is the beast from the earth. It very clearly explains that. And then remember that the beast from the earth is explained as something Islam raises in the Quran. So the reason I'm bringing this up is you have four great beasts emerge from the sea. This is the beast from the sea. You got a lion with eagle's wings. They look like they're torn off, and it's blah blah blah. I mean, you can like my whole point is the animals here. So you got an animal, right? A lion. The next one's a bear. The next one's a leopard with four wings. I mean, with four bird wings and four heads. So a leopard with four heads. The lion and the bear probably just have a lion's head and a bear head, and then you have a leopard with four heads, right? And so and then a fourth beast that sounds like a dragon thing. A fourth beast, fearful, terrifying, very strong. It had great iron teeth. It crushed and trampled underneath what remained. It was different from the previous beasts and had 10 horns. So the reason I bring this up, and I was like, well, if we're comparing the seven churches, seals, trumpets, plagues, and I'm suggesting that the number scheme on all of those has some validity and some meaning as to like what's going on in those situations. Like at the fifth church, how I've described there's a specific time period spoken of in like multiple of the like at the church it says how much longer do we gotta wait at the um and then it talks about white robes. You're given white robes for a white robe for making it through that. The or conquering it, that one. The Trump fifth seal, people in white robes then ask like how much longer. So there's a time period, right? Um at the fifth trumpet, it describes the time period seemingly as 5 months. And anybody probably who doesn't have a seal of Yahweh, which my guess is that the white robes are representative of that seal, they get stung for a period of time. And then it describes, so if you have the mark of the beast, you're getting stung. In Revelation 16 with the plagues, it just directly describes the beast's empire is plunged into darkness and people are dealing with pains for a period of time, right? And they don't repent. That sounds exactly like what happens at the trumpet. So that's why I'm saying they seem to match. My guess is that the heads match as well. And so I tried to play that out in my head and I got the lion. Well, like what country, like here in America, if these represent the presidents, my thought is like it's whatever nation was exerting over that president at the time. So the first one is a lion, and my guess wasn't the Netherlands. Actually, when I looked this up earlier, it said England, and so um, maybe it's the Netherlands, but it's probably England because that makes sense as the United States came out of England and probably there's whatever George H.W. Bush might have been exerted on by the English government, and then something probably happened in that 4 years or in that however long he was president. I think 4 years, right? But and then it changed, and then Clinton is the bear, and then like what's representative of bear? I guess California, but also what's representative of bear? Russia. And then the third one is a leopard. Well, okay. Leopards are part of the genus Panthera, right? And Panthera, right? And there's only 5 different ones. And from even the modern Israeli word for leopard could be a tiger. So that's one other thing that you want to maybe think of. But I was thinking of well, like what leopard species in Middle East. So like what kind of leopard or tiger would be. So there aren't any tigers in the Middle East, so they wouldn't probably have used that word to describe it could be a tiger maybe, but they do have leopards. And in our understanding, they're Arabian leopards. That's what they call them. And so I was thinking, oh, it's probably Saudi Arabia. And that would make sense. George H.W. Bush and the neocons, seemingly something was going on with Saudi Arabia during that time period, right? So, like, hold on. If we pull it up, an Arabian leopard, and I mean, it's what leopards have spots or stripes. Uh, Noon Mim Resh, a Namar, right? And Namer. That's even what they call the tank or one of their fighting vehicles or something in Israel. But again, this word also means a tiger. So, like, if you look up word for lep, actually, hold on. Q Bible Daniel 7. So you pull it up here, and the bear is a doob, or even in when it talks about the beast, maybe a daba. I think that a daba is a female bear, so I'm thinking it's something like that. And that has something to do with the beast. Though the thing it says a dabatan uh, in the Quran, so Anyway, since I'm saying all the Arab words or many of them just come out of Hebrew, a daba would just be a bear, a dab or a doob with a hey at the end, making it feminine, a daba, and then a ton at the end. A ton in Hebrew is a dragon, so a bear dragon. That sounds about right because the beast from the earth speaks. It looks like a lamb with horns. Little, it has horns like a lamb, so it looks like a lamb. It's like a dragon in sheep's clothing, essentially. But anyway, the idea of a bear dragon, makes close enough sense too. So maybe Russia again or something like that. But in any instance, I guess California could be California too, but probably not. And because these are nations, and because the states are a part of the nations, that's just not what it is, right? So like I'm gonna suggest it's probably a nation state, not a state. And since the nation state that's most represented by a bear, nation symbol bear. Oh, the Russian bear. Yeah, really. A national symbol for Russia and California. Well, guess what? California is not a nation, it's part of the United States. So that leaves Russia. And that's more likely who would do it. But maybe I guess it could be California, whatever. I'm not going to discount anything there. But so you got the lion, the bear, the leopard with four heads. So I think the first president was exerted over by something from represented by a lion. The second one was exerted over by something by a bear, or like manipulated by something like a bear. And then the fourth one, a leopard. And if you look at this word, Namar, Nun Mim Resh, right? A Namar, or Namar? A Namar, Inimar, in Mr., like Mr. Beast? No. And also, just FYI, Surah 2782, the one that has the whole beast from the earth stuff in it. Literally, this I'll bring forth a beast from the earth. Uh, it's called Surah and An, meaning the in al or an seemingly both can mean the in Arabic. I don't know. I don't really care, but the ant and like, well, here's just another word that you see here, namala, right? Put a hey, it's a female ant, right? A feminine ant from its bisected form. Nun mim lamed nml nml h or a, but here namal, to circumcise, be clipped, be circumcised, cut off. So a female version of that is an ant apparently, and that's what's used in the proverbs. So anyway, take that for something going on Namal. Um, but okay, so now you get it. Also, it sounds like the word animal. Wah, wah. Um, and like I guess if Anja Ambrosio, the Ja, hi, yo, yeah. Anyway, that's just a joke. Um, Leopard, right? Leopard. But if we look up like he Hebrew word for tiger, it brings up the same word. Nun Mimresh is the same word, right? So tiger, leopard, panther. Since tigers and panthers aren't um, native to the Middle East, and probably the biblical writers would not have been writing about something that they weren't seeing, I'm gonna guess it was a leopard. Lions are there are lions around the Middle East and in Africa and North Africa, right? There maybe, especially maybe at that time. Nowadays, there are probably not a lot of these animals left anywhere. This is one of the reasons why Yahweh is probably talking about, I'm going to destroy those who are destroying the earth, because they're killing off all the wildlife which Yahweh created to exist here with us. Not to be all hippy dippy and stuff, but like, we were created to like be here with the creatures that God created, so that we could like understand God, see His majesty and stuff. And also, these creatures are supposed to bend to our will and like respect us, and they don't do much of that anymore. And who would blame them? So yeah, I just like by bend to our will, it's like, you see that certain animals will like respect people who understand those animals, right? That's supposed to be like the nature that all humans have. But most people are corrupt, and I think the animals can sense that. And I even think some of the corruption then bleeds onto those animals. And I don't mean bleeds, but like it's like a parasite on those animals, and they start acting all feral and out of sorts and stuff. And that's because it's like this a spiritual thing, and it's like affecting the animals too. But okay, so a leopard. So let's say a leopard, and like I'm saying, the only leopard that's going to be native to the region is the Arabian leopard. So that would make sense, right? You look here, and that pretty much goes up into Israel. So, and like a lot of these places are biblical lands, like Medina, Mecca and Medina. The Medina part of it is called Midian in the Old Testament. So anyway, the whole Arabian Peninsula. My point is that I think probably it would have been an Arabian leopard, and I think it's pointing out to Arabia as where this animal's from. And four, I think what it's saying is the next four successive uh a six the next four successive what's that called, presidents. So the next four presidents following, you got lion, bear, um and then leopard head, leopard head, leopard head, leopard head, right? So here's what I'm guessing. Um, as you could see what happened after George Bush took power, there literally that year, 2001, is when September 11th happened. As I'm looking at this creature pops up on the whatever that is. Um, Pops up on the thing. But anyway, September 11th happened when George Bush was in power, right? That was the whole George W. Bush was in power. Um, that was when the alliance with Saudi Arabia became very important because the U.S. moved into the Middle East in a way that the U.S. had not been in the Middle East before. The U.S. had been kind of meddling in the affairs, rightfully so, in the sense of like you want the Shah of Iran to exist there. You don't want an Islamic regime because the Islamic regime has caused death and destruction for all sorts of people. It hasn't respected the left. Like this is why I'm like it's so confusing. Other than that, left is just unaware. Like they're very not intelligent, or they're just purposefully divisive and chaotic. And I would even say this that like the left is easier to manipulate than the right because the left doesn't really stand for the same. Like the right is supposed to stand for uh, kind of Jesus in America. Conservatism in America is like Jesus. Conservatism in the Middle East is like Islam. So, but you can trick people by faking you're a Christian. But like, anyway, that's a whole different thing. Um, but I do think that that's what's going on with Trump and a number of the like most people that I see that are claiming to be Christian. I'm like, look, man, Christian doesn't mean that you're always acting perfect. It's that you're trying to be perfect in the way and that you follow Jesus as an example, and he's the thing that convicts you. Here, he's the thing that convicts you, right? And so you should see a change in person and a change in action, and there should be a conviction to act a certain way or to do things a certain way. So my reality is a bit different from most people because most people aren't being force bred by a bunch of celebrities who are constantly harassing and abusing them, and that it was allowed by the government who knew and maybe participated. So that's a different thing for most people, but I try to be pretty good anyway, regardless. But in any instance, so periods of time that we were in the Middle East, right? One, two, three, four, right? This whole period of time between these four presidents, the United States posture in the Middle East has been are centered kind of around Saudi Arabia as being our closest ally, and I think probably it's just a lot of money has been spent trying to um trying to do that. And even I think that that's still kind of going on because Saudi Arabia promising Trump $600 billion, right, worth of like economic investment. It and then Trump's not trying to get a trillion. That's like a still a significant like that's Saudi Arabia has, as Trump says, like a big wallet. Like they have a lot of money, right? $600 billion is still a lot for Saudi Arabia. That's a lot of money for any country, but like it's a lot of money for the U.S. It's a lot of money for Saudi Arabia. You know what I mean? Like, um, so my guess is that I don't necessarily think he's gonna. Well, I don't think he's under exactly their authority anymore. Like I think these were like used by those countries in the Middle East, specifically Saudi Arabia, and then the additional Emirates and other Arabs around them. Maybe not, but maybe more specifically Saudi Arabia. But that the new Trump, right, the seventh head is the fourth beast, and I think this one is being used by this head is representative of the dragon, right? And that's why in Revelation you have the different, right? So it says here a fourth beast, terrifying and very strong with iron teeth. You look at it. Hold on. What country represents the dragon? Bhutan, Wales, Vietnam. Okay, let's come on. AI search for here. How about this? Probably this one's a better one. China, and that one makes sense. Um, okay, so China. You look at the dragons here, right? Like a Chinese dragon. Like, let's see. I guess it could be Vietnam too. We were in a war in Vietnam, and there was like a. I was wondering this: is Olivia Munn secretly my relative or my sister or some shit like that? Like, did they do the breeding thing, but to my dad too? And then like it didn't work for some reason, and people couldn't figure out exactly why. And then it's like, oh, Matt figures it out at some point and then implodes the whole thing or something like that. I mean, I could believe that my dad has other children that he doesn't know about if they're doing that shit to me. And or he does know about it and it's embarrassing, so he doesn't want to admit that this is going on, so he just wants to live in a different reality. But that's actually the reality we live in, and we're coming to a head, and I'm just gonna force the point. But whatever. My guess is that like I don't know. It's one of these dragons. Like here, if we look at the dragon, this kind of dragon almost looks to me kind of like right, as teeth and stuff, and looks pretty ferocious and stuff like that. Right? I don't know. None of these actually look that ferocious, but I'm not seeing any. How about this? Hold on. This even looks like a scarier dragon than those. And so, okay, so Shinron from Dragon Ball Z. But maybe this is why this is the Goku. Uh, because there's a coup by some dragon thing, and it's like, nope, and I caught a dragon by its tail. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a dragon by its toe. I ain't letting that bitch go. All right, anyway. Okay, so, it looks ferocious, right? It's like a snake-like thing, and it just fits. It fits, okay? Um, Conceptually. So, actually, I'm even gonna do this. Give me a moment here. We're gonna go to the desktop and open this up in Chrome so that I can have one that's open to we'll have this one opened up to the New Testament, and we'll have the other one open up to the Old Testament. Actually, we could do both here. So I wish I could open multiple tabs in Adobe Reader, but it won't let me of the same thing. So I guess I could make multiple different versions of the PDF. But anyway, so when it describes it here, the beast from the sea, the kind of final. It doesn't even say final head. It just says it takes aspects of what is mentioned here, right, in Daniel. It takes some of those aspects and like combines it into one thing. So you see here it says a beast was like a leopard, right? And so the leopard like a leopard is here. The paws like a bear, and the paws like a bear is here, right? So the second beast I saw paws like a bear. Or it's it's a bear, right? The second beast is the bear. The mouth like a lion is the first one here. And so maybe because Revelation has this differently, maybe I had that order wrong, but I don't think so. I because it makes more sense the way I just described it. We basically have been in Arabia in a way that we've never been. Like America has been in the Middle East in a way like that we weren't previously as a nation after 9/11. And then like every president since then, there's been a relationship with the Arabs in that capacity, and specifically the standard bearer for Arabs in Arabia is Saudi Arabia, the House of Saud in Arabia. So you know what I'm saying? Like, who also is the authority on Islam? I mean, in Sunni Islam, because they control the the site of Mecca and Medina, right? So the sites. So okay. So one of the things that I wanted to bring, okay, and then I guess the final one is, so like again, I think if I have to guess, lion, right? Lion, bear, four leopard heads, right? Four heads of leopards, and then dragon. 47 is dragon. And I think what happened was, I do think Trump probably was assassinated over the summer or something. And the thing that's keeping him alive is like some kind of power from China, or like some kind of satanic power, some adversarial power. So some kind of combination of Russia, China, North Korea, like all their powers put together to do whatever. There's also this idea of Gog and Magog, and Satan sends his troops down in Revelation, right? It talks about Gog and Magog. Satan will be released from his prison and come out to deceive all the nations from the four quarters, Gog and Magog, and mobilize them for war. And Gog and Magog. I can't exactly say that it's Russia, but when it says the northernmost, from the northernmost in Ezekiel, right? I don't. Let's see. We might have to open up another one here. Um, Actually, we'll go from Daniel and then we'll go up, up. We'll go up like this. So this is actually faster. So against Gog and Magog. So Son of Man, turn towards the word of Yahweh was addressed to me as follows: Son of Man, turn towards Gog and Magog, and the prince of Rosh, Meshech, and Tubal. Now it says the prince of Rosh. Rosh is the head, a head. So it might even just be not saying the prince of Rosh, but the head prince, Meshech and Tubalsk. Now, Damashek is Damascus. So the word Damashek in Hebrew, like uh, Damashek, is the Hebrew word for Damascus. I'm not gonna go look it up, but what I'm guessing is that it's closer, like Damascus, Mascus, right? Meshek, Mascus. So I think it turns into Moscow is what I'm trying to get at. In fact, I should prove out my point here, so I am gonna do this. Um, Syria and Israel are threatened. The burden of Damashek, right? Damash, look, Darmesek, Dumesek, Damesek. Damascus, right? But look, the letters are um, Damasek, right? Dalet mim shin with a accent mark that makes it not a sh but a s, like an s, not an sh, and then a kuf, right? So Damasek, Damasek, right? So I'm gonna guess if we go and look at See, this is one thing that confuses it. These accent marks were not there at the time of writing. They were only added in the 10th century. So we can either say both of them are Meshek, Damashek, or Damasek, or someone just arbitrarily added this accent mark. So I'm gonna suggest that actually Meshek or this is Mesek, or it's closer to Moscow, right? Mesek, Moscow, a drawing up, a fishing, and acquiring, or something. Moscow is what I'm gonna guess. That's it. It's probably closer to Moscow than this is like letting on, right? Because Damascus, right? That's what we get from this modern, from like the modern version of this Damasek, right? So I'm thinking it's something like what I just said, where Meshek is Moscow and Tubal. Uh, the second oldest Russian settlement in the Ural Mountains. It says founded in 1590, but it's just the idea. Tobolsk, Tobolsk. It's closer than any other from the Tobol River, so maybe Tubal is Tobol, right? I mean, that would make sense to me. In Western Siberia, Kazakhstan, and Russia. So like, um, my guess is that it's saying, so like if we even do, hold on, there's another thing. I'll just, if I open Google Earth Pro here and we go to bloopity bloopity, we go to Israel, which is not Palestine because they are not Philistines. Philistine, literally Palestinian in Hebrew, which is where the word comes from. Arabs say Philistini because that's Philistine. Philistines were from here, Crete, right? This is what, or Kaftor. So the idea is they came on boat as sea people. That's why later on it talks about the Confederation of the Sea, or the Sea Confederacy. There were sea peoples that were coming from Greek and other places, in the Mediterranean, and they would just sail the sea, and then they would hit the land over here and settle over here, right? And like Tyre and Sidon is similar to that. The Phoenicians, right? Also, that's a suggestion, but in the least, the idea of the Philistines is that they are non-local. Their name Philistine literally means immigrant. So anyway, it is definitely are the is it the immigrants' land or the indigenous people? Because the closest thing to indigenous people is the Israelites, and even the Quran would suggest that, because it says the land belongs to the children of Israel, is given to by David, or I mean, given to David by Allah. So I just like, you can't bullshit um, when people actually know what's going on. So what this is saying is, right, if we draw a line straight north, right, we go to Jerusalem here, right, we'll go to Jerusalem and just go straight north. I mean, in this direction is like Moscow. Anything is pretty much Eastern Europe, so what would have been the USSR at one point, but it also says the northernmost part, and the northernmost European country. I mean, technically, because of all this, oh, the Kara Sea here. Um, the eastern, like the northernmost thing. over here. What is it? Russia is all Russia. This is the most northern European country, Eurasian country, or whatever. But it's going to be Russia. I guess Finland and Sweden and Norway could be, and Iceland could be coming to attack Israel. But I'm going to suggest probably not. It could be talking about over here, and it's actually Canada, and then I guess we go so far north, it's California, and the United States is attacking Israel, and but that's not reality. So I'm just trying to make a point that like very likely it's talking about um oh shit, I lost my I was like just going around the globe. Okay, here. So if you just go straight north, right? I mean, I guess it could be Ukraine, but Ukraine has their own problems. You know what I mean? So probably they're not going to be. If anything, Ukraine and if there's two, if there's a two competing hegemonies, Ukraine is more on the American side than Russia is, despite whatever Tucker Carlson or whatever conservatives here in America are going to tell you. The European Union is more on the American side. Now, the European Union is making stupid fucking decisions relating to Islam and migrants and stuff like that, and they're too left for their own good because they're being manipulated in the same way that, remember, before Iran was the Islamic Republic, they were Persia, and whatever issues that you have with that version of Persia, guess what? Less people died, there was less problems, there was less oppression. Modern day, you cannot be leftist in Iran, whatever values they want to espouse as having and representing the left, you can't have those in fucking Iran, at least not publicly. So, you can call people out like that on their bullshit. They're just incongruent worldviews. What I'm saying is a congruent worldview that there's two kind of competing hegemonies. The United States, Europe, and certain allies in South America, Africa, and especially Asia, like Japan and Korea and stuff, and Taiwan. And then you have kind of neutral countries, I guess. Like India didn't really. I don't really look at India as like being on China's side, but they are part of BRICS. So I mean, it just depends on how you want to look at this. But in the least, there is an axis of Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China, right? That very actively work together. And I'll say this: Israel struck Russian bases in Syria when they were transiting weapons from Iran to the Iranian proxies. So I'm going to suggest that action makes them more aligned with Ukraine. Not just that, but I mean, that's a really obvious action that they took in a wartime scenario where they were literally willing to bomb a Russian military base because the Russians were actively participating in something that they knew and know they should not be participating in. But one of the reasons Russia does that is because they don't want Israel because Israel stands on the US's side, and like when Syria fell, it cuts Russia off from Africa in their pillaging of African nations using troops like Wagner and whatever. Um, Anything that you can say about the United States doing things in any country, Russia, Iran, China, and those nations as part of those blocks are considerably worse. Anything that if you speak wrong in Russia, you can go to jail. If you say something that is like not if that they think opposes the party enough, they can find a reason to throw you in jail. I'm not saying that that can't happen here in America, but that's not the ideal. And usually, if that happens in America, it's a form of corruption. If that happens in Russia, it's a form of business as usual, and that's just the reality of things. So they don't have protections in the same way as our Constitution promises us. That's one of the reasons why the United States of America is a nation founded on a good idea. Now, is it good in practice? Not always, but it's better in practice generally than Russia, China, whatever. You know what I mean? Why? Because in idea, there is an ideal that America should strive for. Russia, China, Iran, whatever, they don't have those ideals. You know what I mean? They don't have those. So they have certain ideas, and I'm going to specifically say I'm not talking about Chinese. I'm not talking about Han Chinese. I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party. Just like I'm not talking about Koreans or even North Koreans, I'm talking about the North Korean government and their actions. Though most North Koreans are fooled into just buying that shit wholesale. So anyway, my whole point with this is that the Gog and Magog thing is probably, again, if you go straight up from Jerusalem, you pretty much hit Moscow or Meshech, right? So when it says like I'll turn you round, fixing hooks in your jaws, and it's like Gomer, all his troop, northernmost. Long story short, it says I'm gonna pull you from the northernmost, right? And they get brought onto the mountains of Israel, and then the events of Revelation happen. But here it's the events of, it talks about I'm going to, see my holy name is known among my people Israel. You know, those people that don't say the name Yahweh, they say Hashem or whatever other bullshit to not say the name Yahweh. All right, they're going to know the name Yahweh when whoever attacks them, whatever group of people is going to do it. I'm suggesting it's probably Russia, Iran, some, whatever kind of confederation of nations comes together to attack them in the Gog and Magog thing. Earthquakes, fire from the sky, insane storm activity, huge hail. They're put into terror where the men start killing each other. There's earthquakes and shit like that. Like, this is when I think the earthquakes from Revelation happen. And you can just read 38 and 39 here, but he makes a point to show out his power during that period. And you can see Revelation 20. So when we go here and it talks about Revelation 20, I'm thinking it's someone who convinces those nations to do that. And is that Vladimir Putin? Or is that Xi? Or is it someone that's like an underground leader in those places? Or like a hidden emperor of all of those countries? That's my guess. Or someone who's like the emperor of some, like the internet. You know what I mean? Like someone who has cyber power that is like unmatched, other than like what's behind me, I think. And what's behind me is seemingly the power of Yahweh. If I'm doing a lightning shit at my window, and I've been doing like earthquake stuff, I think I can. I'm not saying anything other than Jesus and Yahweh, right? And I'm showing how all these other places around the world have like things that point to Yahweh, but are just fucked up versions of it, like of like the biblical narrative, or like the concept of Yahweh riding on the clouds with an iron rod, like in China that they call him the Monkey King. But that is clearly Yahweh, and it just seems like a way to disrespect Yahweh, or I'll even say more off. Honestly, it's a way to disrespect like me, because someone just wants to call me a monkey. Whatever. If I beat your ass as a monkey, it's not really gonna matter if I'm a monkey or like whatever. You're done, and I'm in charge, so I'm not really worried. And I am the king. If that had the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, that's the idea of conquering at the seven churches of Asia. At the seventh church, if you do that, guess what? You probably get the splendors of all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. And who sits on that throne? Jesus, Yahweh, and the guy conquering at the seven churches of Asia. I'm thinking that's this guy right here. So I don't see anybody else that's matching this up in any way like I am. So dragon thing. Okay, you get what I'm explaining with this. This video is already longer than I wanted it to be, so I'm going to try to wrap this up here. The reason I brought this up... Oh, I shouldn't have closed those. Hold on. Damn, it's going to make me go back. What did I have open here? Hold on. We'll pull up Revelation on this one. We'll pull up Daniel on the other one. And then... So, there is no mention of the beast from the earth explicitly in Daniel. So, Jews, as it stands, do not have an understanding that is found in both the Quran and in Revelation. And I believe it's found in Revelation to counter what's found in the Quran, because I can see how Islam, like, whenever I see rabbis, they always seem to think that Christians, or a lot of the times, like Tobiah Singer and bullshit liars like that, else completely confused idiots that should shut their fucking mouths like that, don't seem to understand that Islam is considerably more against them then, and I think it's just because he's bought off or some bullshit like that. He's not a real Jew, and he's willing to betray his people. But Christians are supposed to stand with this idea of Israel and Jews. It just is. You can pretend that's Zionism or whatever, but you're supposed to stand with truth, and in truth, there is no Palestine. The Philistines are gone as a people. Those are Arabs lying about who they are. Else they're confused about who they are. They're liars. The modern day Israelis, it literally says in Jeremiah 23, just after 5 and 6, it explains how Yahweh's going to bring the peoples back and settle them in Israel. That's what happened in 1948. And since then, you can piss it and complain. You can whine and complain and be pissy about it all you want. It is clearly what it says in the book. If you say it isn't, you're lying. When did that happen? It has. It hadn't happened up until 1948. It did happen in 1948. Shut the fuck up. Don't give me lies and bullshit. This is why I'd be the guy on the throne, because I'm willing to just call people out, and I'm not going to take bullshit lies for an answer. I can read for myself, and I know what it says, and that's what it says. So, yeah. Uh, but okay. Um, so when it talks about the beast from the earth thing, that is explicitly described in the Bible, and then 500 years later, and by the Bible I mean the book of Revelation, which Jews do not believe in. I'm going to suggest they don't believe in it until this thing happens. Until whatever happens here. And then anybody in Israel and anybody who's claiming to be a Jew, if you are actually a follower of Yahweh, you're going to be forced to admit Christians had it right. Jesus is in fact the Messiah. Christians protect you. Literally, like early evangelicals and Christians are the reason Israel exists. It's not just because of the Jews. It's because Christians and those in positions of power took action to create that and help create that for the Jews. That is just fact. I'm pretty sure Balfour or whichever guy, there's like a Christian guy in Britain who was like instrumental in creating and like proposing and getting these signed into law, which is what created the mandates, which is what created a specific section for the Jews to be there. Like in any instance, it is just obvious to me. The Muslims aren't supporters of that. They're explicitly, most Muslims believe. I mean, if you're actually going to believe the Hadith and stuff, Muslims think that the time of the end comes when they're warring against the Jews and the trees and rocks say, "Come and kill this Jew behind me," except for the Garkot tree because that's the tree of the Jews. I mean, so it's like if you're going to argue which Christians that have this suggestion that they're Jews that have it so wrong, they're following a satanic deity that isn't Yahweh, and they're forced to acknowledge Jesus as Yahweh at the end because they don't have that character that is explicitly mentioned in Jeremiah 23, 5, and 6. They even make him into two messiahs, which is not possible. It is not reality. That is a satanic, that is oppositional and adversarial to the truth, which is Jesus is the King of Israel, and he did exist, and he was resurrected, and, all those things that, separate Judaism and Christianity. Messianic Jews have it right. Tough shit for the Orthodox. You know what I'm saying? But it's better that they admit that they were wrong. And this is when I think they're going to admit it's wrong, is the whole when they get betrayed. And, I think what happens is Trump betrays them, and then, uh, they have some kind of issue. Like, that's what I think happens. I think Trump betrays them. So, if I have to guess. Or, when I think it explicitly says, like, end times peace, Bible, coming false peace, right? I don't know, like, if we read this, I don't know what this is. I'm just, this idea that you always hear in Christianity. When I'm watching, like, TBN with my grandma when she was still around, um, here's what Christians generally believe. The Antichrist will make a 7-year covenant of peace with Israel. The temple will be rebuilt in Jerusalem. the Antichrist will break his covenant. So, and this is where I think this is wrong. There's no character called the Antichrist in Revelation. So this is just speculation. There is no Antichrist. The Antichrist. There is Antichrist. There is no the Antichrist. There are many, is what it explicitly says. There is, however, Satan. There is, however, a beast from the earth. There is, however, a beast from the sea. In this hierarchy, beast Satan, beast from sea, beast from earth. They are all Antichrist. So to say the Antichrist, no, but probably the beast. Yeah, I think the beast does in fact make some kind of covenant. And my guess is it's not 7 years, it's 3.5 years. But okay. Why? Because the 1260-day period is also found in the book of Daniel. I mean, yeah, so it's like it's Revelation and Daniel. It's not a 7 year period, it's a 1260-day period. That's exactly half of 7 years. So, I think the reason most people think it's 7 years, most Christians, is if you come here and you read, they take the book as like, okay, first the churches happen, then the seals happen, then the trumpets happen, then the plagues. Then all this stuff happens, right? The woman and the dragon, the 7 year period, and then the plagues happen. That's not how it reads to me, because I think they call it chiastic. But long story short, when I'm talking about the seals are also represented in the churches, are also represent, like, the churches represent how, like, one vantage point of looking at the situation. The seals represent another vantage point of looking at the situation. The trumpets, another, and the plagues another. So the plagues are how the enemies of God see it. The trumpets are how neutral people see it, or like undecided people or some shit see it. Just maybe how everybody sees it. The church, this situation when it says the churches, that's how Christians actually, or maybe even just me, the guy on the throne, or the guy conquering at the seven churches. But I'm gonna guess it's anybody who's a Christian. You probably see it like the churches. Um, Anybody who's not, you probably see it like in successive. It gets more and more just the direct enemies of God. So like first, it's like Christians see it like what it reads here. Um, like maybe neutral people see it as the seals. Maybe people who are like against Yahweh see it as the trumpets, and maybe Satan and his literal empire are see it as the plagues. But it's these periods are the same thing, I think, because when it talks about the great river Euphrates, the angel empties his bowl over the great river Euphrates, and this is Armageddon and stuff like that. Um, right, like this is when the angel of the abyss comes out. It's literally just reads exactly like looking at it from the vantage point of what's happening directly to like Satan, like the throne of the beast and his whole empire, right? So I mean, I think I'm closer to this, where what I'm saying is it's not just indirect order, right? Does that make sense? Because other parts of the Bible read like this too, but explicitly Revelation reads like this, where I'm saying like where you just read about the great river Euphrates. Okay, well it talks about it right here. So how do fifth and sixth trumpets match exactly what it says at the fifth and sixth plagues? Maybe the seals in the churches things are combined, and the trumpets and plagues are combined or something. But I'm gonna reiterate that like it talks about a period of 5 months here, and anybody who doesn't have white robes from Yahweh and Jesus are being stung. But anybody who, like, the people who die on account of the word of God, they have this, right? And it says how much longer, and I'm suggesting 5 months. It literally asks a period of time, and then the fifth seal asks about a period of time, and these are how the people of God see it, I think. And I think probably actually the church's things is how I see it, right? And so how I see what's going on is a Jezebel character. How most people see what's going on during that time is like plague and Hades and the four horsemen. So that's just my guess here. Okay. Um, because that matches, right? And if you go here and it's talking about white robes, right? Well, when it's suggesting I get my white robes is the fifth, and then it asks, like it's I think it says not much time longer or something, but it does seem to say like wake up. You know what I mean? So I think that's talking to me and maybe like other elders in the church or something, but that's my guess. Um, so I don't think it's a 7 year period personally. I think when it says 1260 days here, this 1260 days that it mentions here matches the first up here. You have the temple is handed over to the pagans, and they'll trample the holy city for 42 months. And then it says, I shall send my two witnesses to prophecy for those 1260 days. Because 1260 days is 42 months. All right. So you got 42 months, 1260 days. Same period of time. It even explicitly says it in this translation. But probably in the Greek, it explicitly says it. And then 3.5 days, either at the very end or the 3.5 days like right after the 1260 or at the very at like 1257 and a half or 1256 and a half. So it's one of those, plus or minus 1260 days. And then you come here and I think it's talking about the same period. Notice it says 1260 days. The woman is looked after for 1260 days, right? um and my guess, if you have all the power in existence and you have the ability to travel in time, Satan would try to go back in time and kill Jesus. And like this is like Jesus actually gets born in the timeline, and it's proven out that he exists because he is a being that was born in our reality. But again, just like in Deadpool, when Deadpool goes back and kills Hitler, it's like if Deadpool or some kind of like Pool of the Dead, some death itself tried to go back and kill Jesus or something. What would happen, right? Well, I think maybe they could get away with it unless someone more powerful out. I don't actually think they get away with it, but they can kind of erase, like if they could steal away all the power that's probably connected to me is my guess. If I'm the guy conquering at the seven churches, if they could kill me and they could beat Christianity, they would then go back and kill Jesus himself. That's what I think would happen. But as long as we can keep this timeline going the way it is, they not only can't, it's manifesting the actual 1260 days that Jesus is taken into the wilderness by his parents or whatever. So that's just a guess. I could be wrong with that one. I'm just spouting out ideas, but that's what it makes sense to me because the woman who brings forth a male child into the world to rule all the nations with an iron scepter, and that child is taken straight up to God in his throne. That's Jesus, right? Okay, yeah. And maybe even the taken up to straight up to God in his throne is maybe if I'm on the throne that Jesus is talking about, that he'll grant me to sit with him on that one. Maybe this is saying like I'll grant you to be this one, you know? So anyway, and this is also the iron scepter that you get for conquering at the fourth church that I seem to be getting for conquering over Jezebel. Um, so, and it probably makes me look a lot like Michael, but I maybe not. I don't know. Something like that. Because Michael, I think, is the house of David. Because the name Michael means who is like God. And the answer to that, it's like a riddle. The answer to that is found in Zechariah 12. The house of David is like not just Mikael, but it's like Mikael Elohim. Mika Elohim, right? Who is like God. Ki, actually, it says Ki Elohim, like God. So, House of David, Ki Elohim. Uh, Something like that. But I'm not going back and looking in the exact Hebrew, but it's something like that. I mean, I'm not that far off. Um, Again, I'm not a native Hebrew speaker, but it seems to be pretty fucking logical and obvious to me. So, Okay, now look here. A year and twice a year and a half a year. Again, these are also time periods brought about, like it explains here, for a time, two times, and a half time. That's the exact same. It's just so a time is a year and a half. A time is a half a year. So a year and twice a year. So 3 years and a half. A time, two times. So a time, a year, 2 years, and a half a year. Okay, that's exactly what this says. That's why I think it's only 1,260 days. And so most Christians see this as the Antichrist makes a 7 year peace covenant with Israel. My suggestion is that whatever Trump is doing, he makes some kind, he's like, Benjamin Netanyahu's literally in Washington right now. They just flew in on Zion Wing. I'm getting the updates on my. We go to my Twitter and we go to home here. Like that's what the. Hmm. Oh, hold on. This isn't my following. So we go to following. Also, I think Trump is pissing off a lot of people more than I've ever seen any president piss people off before. That's just what I've noticed. Okay, Netanyahu landed in the U.S. and will become the first foreign state leader to have a state visit with Trump. Uh, Visit during Trump's second term in office. So, I've brought up that I think the whole Kushner peace plan actually betrays Israel somehow. Is my guess is that they give it over to the Muslims because I mean to a like literally what seems to be an Islamic caliphate that's empowered by China or some shit like that by the dragon. And I'm like, well, who's the dragon? What's the national? Whose national animal is a dragon? China's national animal is a dragon or a panda. But okay, so I don't know. The dragon, in any instance, the beast from the earth has risen by Islam. I think that makes enough sense. The countries so far mentioned in Kushner's 10 country peace plan are Islamic countries. It just makes sense to me. But I'm guessing this is the covenant of peace with Israel is what's being talked about by Trump and Kushner, right? And that's the Trump Kushner peace plan. And my understanding is that he breaks the covenant very, very like almost immediately. um, and you know, so at that point, it says Israel will finally recognize Jesus as their Messiah. Well, as I've been saying this, but this is Israel will be invaded. So all these things are going to happen. And like I'm sitting here saying it as it's happening, right? I don't even know if Trump's still alive, actually. Like I'm saying, I think he's only being kept alive by the power of some kind of literal Satan dragon thing, some kind of dragon thing. So, anyway, that's what I think that's talking about. And also the beast thing, it talks about for 42 months. Again, 3.5 years, 1,260 days, 42 months are the same amount of times, right? Um, and that also is like 42 months if the beast is Trump. 42 months, it depends on when this started, but it sounds close enough. Like 1,260 days is almost like 6 months before the election started happening here in the United States was like when everything started to shift, I think, right? Um Kind of what I'm getting at is like I think the 1,260 days is something like a presidential term and he's trying to be number 48. But if whatever court it talks about in Daniel here rules, a court is held and books are open, and like what's going on with me comes out publicly and there's some kind of thing that is forced to happen, I think the idea is that they get um they get their power stripped from them because they have governmental power, right? the beast currently, if Trump is the beast, and even if he's being run by a foreign nation, like first of all, he's purged high level people at the FBI and see like all these places. So like any basically police to deal with him in the government are like they're already taken out of out of the position to do something. But guess what? The previous administrations were participating too. So it has to be something that's like my suggestion is that maybe the Supreme Court does something, or maybe some underground deep state court, which is like actually around to be like a final line of defense for if the United States gets taken over, like I think has happened. But if it does happen, and I'm a guy who's been saying it for this whole time, and if you just listen to fucking what I'm saying, a lot of these things probably would not be happening. Um, Probably also represent the people more than these elected officials, even if you've elected them and you haven't elected me. If I represent you more and I represent life itself, and you can see me doing lightning shit and just stuff like that, it's what are you gonna like? No, let's go with the elected people that keep being corrupt. It's like no. Well, how about we have an American sovereign and then you can have elected like bureaucrats, but you're probably not going to have the same kind of president where they have all the authority to do what they do, at least not unchecked against me. So, or the guy on the throne, but I'm gonna suggest that probably is me, based on what it says in Revelation, because that's clearly what's on offer if you go through the situation that it describes. So, anyway, Mark the Beast thing, I think has to do with something. Number 666 is the number of a man. I think that six is the number meaning like a man, and six three times is three men. Satan, beast from the sea, beast from the earth. Oh, 666. Makes sense. So, anyway, Yahweh. Uh, let's, and then again, notice all the flash of the lightning, peals of thunder, earthquake, violent hail. It's like earth upheaval and storm activity. Okay, well, that's like, this is why I think the change thing is like they're trying to use climate change is because they know that the end of the Bible ends with storm activity, like to such an extreme, and so to explain it away, whatever bad spirit is doing, trying to like manipulate people into continuing the evil bullshit, is like no, it's just climate change brought about by carbon emissions and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's not. There isn't a guy who can just do lightning stuff at his window, even if you fucking see it on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like so. Yeah, but I do think that pollution is terrible. It's not good, and it also literally explicitly says here, right? Um, the time has come to destroy those who are destroying the earth. Why? Because they're destroying the earth. I just don't think climate change is exactly what they're describing. I think the climate is changing because Yahweh is changing the climate. If I can manipulate the weather at all when I'm at my window because I have a little strength, I think Yahweh has all the power to undo whatever the climate change stuff is. But it's like, the idea is there needs to be a shock to the system enough to wake everybody up and to get rid of all the bad people. And I believe that's what happens. And who decides who's good or bad? Yahweh, else the guy on the throne. But I'm going to suggest the spirit of Yahweh does that, and that's why at the end here you have like a moment where it's like the Matrix construct white room thing. It's just like white going on forever. That's what it sounds like here, except there's a throne and all that kind of shit, and then Satan and death and Hades and everything are thrown into the burning lake and tortured for all eternity. So, see, the books were open, right? Well, when it says the books are open, court was held and the books were open. The great things the horn was saying were ringing in my ear as I watched the beast was killed and his body destroyed and committed to the flames. The other beasts were deprived of their power but received a lease of life for a season at a time. Is that the previous presidents who participated in whatever this rape attack is on my reality? Or, whatever the thing is that I'm explaining? Probably. Um, so, because they're just men that like gave up, like people, so many people have died and had terrible realities because these guys wanted to be a part of some boys club that exalted themselves over God and took over the world, and they didn't fix fuck all, did they? No. So, um, and any of them probably, as I've said previously, I think the whole point is that anybody could be the guy on the throne of Jesus and Yahweh, like what it's in Revelation, like how this seems to be something on offer for anybody who would go through this situation. But none of those men wanted to go through the situation. They wanted the easy way. They wanted to play. You can't beat the system by joining the system, and they wanted to join the system because that was the easy way. And you know, broad is the way, narrow is the way to, what is it, like going through the eye of a needle or something? Putting a camel through the eye of a needle. So the last thing I want to talk about here is something that I read in the book of Daniel that reminds me of Elon Musk, to the point where, like, I was gonna make a short video about it, and then I saw this video and I was like, yeah, this just sounds exactly like what's going on with Elon Musk. So let's watch this thing, and then let's, like, listen to what I have to say about it. I still don't know if he's the false prophet, but it definitely seems like something's up with him.
The world's wealthiest billionaire just got access to your social security number. No, really. This weekend, Elon Musk essentially staged a coup at the Department of Treasury. Scott Bessent, the new The world's wealthiest billionaire just got access to your social security number. No, really. This weekend, Elon Musk essentially staged a coup at the Department of Treasury. Scott Bessent, the new Treasury Secretary, gave Elon Musk and his minions full access to the Treasury Department's payment system. The system is called the Bureau of Fiscal Service, and essentially they control the flow of more than $6 trillion annually from the federal government, distributing Social Security and Medicare benefits, salaries for feds, payments for contractors, grant recipients, and tax refunds. On Friday, the top civil servant at the Treasury Department, David Lebrick, who's been with Treasury for more than 3 decades, denied Elon Musk access to the payment system. Lebrick refused Elon Musk, saying, quote, "We don't do that." And his colleague added, "They seem to want Treasury to be the choke point on payments. That's unprecedented," emphasizing that it's not the Bureau's role to determine which payments to make. It's, quote, "just to make the effing payments." But quickly after refusing, Lebrick was put on leave on Friday and forced into retirement from public service. So now, Elon Musk and his goons at the Department of Government Efficiency have access to and potentially power.
Also, if you look at Doge backwards, like it's a mirror, that I keep saying this about different words, just like IA and AI and, whatever. E-God. And that's what I think Elon Musk thinks he is.
Over what is essential. So now, Elon Musk and his goons at the Department of Government Efficiency have access to and potentially power over what is essentially America's checkbook. And Musk is already bragging about this.
Notice how it talks about Doge team is rapidly shutting down illegal payments. Something about the Lutheran faith and Lutheran family services or something. And it's like, as I've said before, you don't want the government being the thing that takes care of people. You want the church to do that. The government's job is to just govern and make sure, like, to do it as efficiently as possible, actually. But you do want the church to be taking care of people. You actually do want that to be the vessel that takes care of people. So, and I'll also say this: I think he's doing all this. I think they're doing all this because the mark of the beast system. Else, they're doing it because, or this is what leads to it. Is it? I can already see that crypto is taking a big hit, and probably when the markets open up tomorrow because of all the tariffs and stuff. There's upheaval. There's the markets are like going crazy. There's people are scared, people are angry. All the stuff with Israel still going on, you know what I mean? Like Israel and there's just, for the past year and a half or what, 2 years since October 7th, there's just been irrational hatred towards Israel. This idea of saying that they're committing a genocide when it's like, how many babies were born? Don't you have to have negative population growth to be considered a genocide? Like, there's actually genocides going on probably currently, like, in various places. Like, even the thing in Yemen. But, like, what's going on in Palestine, what, you want to call Palestine is not that in Gaza. I mean, they got their ass whooped, but that's because they're a bunch of terrorists and the whole people are all participating in it, and they're Arabs claiming they're a group of people that they are not. They are not Philistines, Philistini. They know they're not, or they have no clue because they've been lied to so much by these other people. These Arabs believe they're actually Philistines. A computer that's looking for truth would be looking at this like, this is so confusing. Or like, if it was to try to figure out what is the truth, what it would probably, if I'm describing it to this, it would it would have to acknowledge, no, the Arabs are not in fact actual Philistines. They are not Palestinians. They are a group of people who are trying to take this name so that they can use it to steal away the land from Israel. Why? Because of a religious bend that Muslims have. Muslims think they need to fight the Jews, and that will bring along the last day. That's what they're trying to do. That's and your Muslim friends are going to go, no, that's not what we're doing. It's like, well, not every Muslim, but you are kind of all playing part in this, and you do believe in a fake knockoff religion that is clearly a knockoff. It's clearly an Arabicized version of the Bible. It clearly changes Yahweh into something he's not. It clearly fucks up everything. Stop lying and like engage reality. But like, let's just keep watching this, and then I'll say my point about Elon Musk.
The Department of Government Efficiency have access to and potentially power over what is essentially America's checkbook. And Musk is already bragging about this. He tweeted today that the Doge team was, quote, shutting down these illegal payments. At the same time this is happening, Elon Musk is essentially staging a hostile takeover of the Office of Personnel Management, which is the federal government's HR department. He's locked out civil servants from their computer system, and they have no clue what he's doing with OPM's data. So why is this so bad? Number one, last week Donald Trump attempted to put a freeze on all government payments. In accessing this payment system, Elon Musk could shut down payments for Medicaid, school lunches, cancer research, or whatever else he wants. Number two, Elon Musk is not a federal employee. He's not been appointed to any official position.
This is the part that's most key to what I'm about to talk about.
Nor has he been appointed to any is not a whatever else he wants. Number two, Elon Musk is not a federal employee. He's not been appointed to any official position, nor has he been confirmed by the Senate. He does not have a security clearance, and the information that he just got access to, it's classified. So let me sum.
He's a South African guy. He's from a country that is literally part of the BRICS system. The thing that, remember when Trump said Spain is a part of BRICS? Okay, they clearly know exactly what they're talking about, right? Spain's a part of the EU. They are not a part of BRICS. But anyway, and that was recent that he said that, right after he got in and he was signing all these executive orders. It just seems like really obvious to me that Elon, with the American flag behind him on his thing, he just does not, he doesn't represent America to me. He represents a liar so far to me. That's what I can tell. An egotistical liar.
Have a security clearance, and the information that he just got access to, it's classified. So let me sum it all up for you. Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest billionaire, spent $288 million in political contributions to elect Trump.
And this is what I was talking about, why I think it's like Elon Musk, with his connections, with his money, helps spread Trump's authority worldwide. Now, I don't consider myself these days a Democrat or a Republican. I consider myself someone with a brain thinking like what is going on here, and like I think if you're either of those things, you're too imbalanced. They're like, you have to get out of this whole two-party system. You have to like think for yourself, and neither of them are actually engaging, or you have to think with reason and logic, and neither of them are actually, because they're so against each other. And I even heard something like this that I thought was powerful. Well, let's finish this real fast.
And in return, Trump is giving him the keys to our government, access to our private information, and the ability to steal from our government benefits, all to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy.
Do I think it's all to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy? Not really. I think it's to take more power and stuff. This is why I think like he's thinking from a Democrat perspective, like a liberal Democrat. He has a picture of Obama on the thing. And remember, I think they're all liars. In fact, that's what I'm talking about. I think all of them it's a boys' club. So, but like my point is that, I'm gonna be honest, I already just forgot what I was saying because I'm trying to actually like get to the point that I was originally gonna make, but This is why Elon Musk is so I'm gonna just suggest whatever I was saying, I just forgot it. I mean, like I'm trying to get so many points out. If you give me a sec, I could try to remember. Um, but oh, um, I'm not for Democrats or Republicans. I think you got to think with some wisdom and knowledge and understanding, wisdom, knowledge. You got to be intelligent about these things and, or in the least, have some wisdom. I don't think either side is doing the right shit. Even the whole silliness where they're talking about, like, I saw this thing where Democrats, they were talking about, like, um, Kamala, like, they think that she could do it the next time. And I'm like, she didn't do it this time. She was probably like, maybe Biden even could have done it. But, like, I don't think that she's a good candidate. I don't think that, I don't think that any of the people that have run for president anytime recently have been good. I mean, good enough. And one of the reasons that I think this whole system and everything is a fucking problem is something that it might even be something that we could find here is that one of these Ukrainian guys said, and it's basically like they're here. Listen to this, and it's why what I'm going to suggest is this is why having elections every 4 years without like some kind of person that is like just able to have enough power that they live here, that they can't be swayed or pushed by either party. Like if I'm a guy on a throne, a sovereign throne here in Houston, but like I'm not trying to be the king of America. I'm or like a bureaucrat doing what like presidents do or whatever. I'm just trying to be a guy and like have a voice that like matters and is like should be listened to. In the least should be considered to like match or go against what the political parties say. Whatever political party comes in power, if I'm in the middle, I just get slammed from either side when these different parties come into fucking power because they are just so bipolar and like neither of them actually want to engage the reality of what's going on. They all have their random fucking points or whatever that they're trying to get across. And so when I'm talking about the election stuff, this is the theoretical main opposition candidate for Zelensky. The issue, but what he's saying is essentially it looks like he's basically saying, I don't want to have elections right now. And he's the guy who would run against Zelensky because there needs to be stability in this time of turmoil, essentially. And I was thinking about like that's how America kind of is in the sense that like we don't have stability as a nation and we should have infinite stability, but because every 4 years we're doing this bipolar back and forth ping to the left or ping to the right or ping to the left or ping to the right, and there's nobody who has enough authority or power to just speak for the people really, who's like, center of the line. It's very destabilizing. But like, listen to the way he describes it.
Do you know what does it mean election now in Ukraine?
Ви знаєте, що означають вибори в Україні
Killing for
зараз?
unity.
Вбивство єдності.
Because election is all the time fight.
Бо вибори – це завжди
Election is all the time fight, right? That's what I'm trying to get out of this. But like, let's listen to him a little more.
боротьба.
And unity cannot exist during the
А
election.
єдності
All
не
the
може бути
democracy
під час
knows.
виборів.
So I'm watching the thing, and Kamala and them are already talking about like how the next election, because that's what it is. It's just from election to election is my point. And so there isn't unity or stability in America, and there hasn't been for a long time since probably I was born, or at least since like the first presidents or that since I've been alive, like Bush 1 and Clinton.
Про це знає будь-яка демократія.
Does the Poroshenko win?
Чи переможе Порошенко, якщо вибори будуть?
Somebody said possible.
Хтось скаже
I
можливо.
said no.
Я скажу ні.
Does the Zelensky win if election would be?
Чи переможе Зеленський, якщо вибори будуть?
My answer would be no.
Моєю відповіддю
Who would be
буде
the
ні.
winner of this election?
Хто б став переможцем на цих виборах?
Putin.
Одна людина – Путін.
In other words, he's saying like, would he win, or the Poroshenko here? He's saying like the main opposition candidate. Would Poroshenko win? Would Zelensky win? No, Putin would win. The guy who's trying to destabilize their country and cause chaos and steal steal their country away from them. They were a sovereign nation. They get to exist. You know what I'm saying? The Bible says don't change the ancient borders. Well, these borders aren't that ancient, but like they're, at least since I was born, there's been a Ukraine. You know what I mean? Like, um, I don't think it's good to say that it's a normal thing that you can just constantly change national borders and stuff like that in a violent way, because it always leads to a bunch of people's deaths. And like, Russia is not our ally, despite what certain Republicans are going to try to tell you, and that's just the reality. And I literally just said earlier, like, I think probably Clinton was being manipulated by Russia or some bullshit like that. I don't speak for either candidate or party or whatever. I try to speak for logic and just like I want peace and comfort. And like you don't get that from this shit. I want the truth actually. And you don't get it. You get peace from the truth of Jesus, but you don't get, or in Yahweh, but you don't get the truth of Jesus and Yahweh. But you don't get like a comfortable reality, right? But here, let's any more.
He has a very
У нього вже
sophisticated
є продумана
disinformation
кампанія з
campaign.
дезінформації.
He has a fifth column.
У нього п'ята колона.
And he will never return back now during the war if he provide the election.
І він ніколи не
Even if
відступить
somebody wanna
назад
keep his
зараз,
hair.
під час війни.
Just
Якщо
take a
відбуватимуться
drink,
вибори,
you'll see
він
more.
просто скористається.
Okay, then this part is I've already gotten the point over that I'm trying to. Like I think the election stuff back and forth is problematic in America because again, there's no like I'm like a dude in the center that lives here in Houston, Texas. That like I have points on both sides. I can see both sides' arguments. Like the idea is, what do they say? Show me a young man who's a Republican. I'll show you a man or a conservative, and I'll show you a young man who doesn't have a heart. Show me an old man that's a liberal, and I'll show you an old man that doesn't have a brain. Okay, so balance that out and figure out what you need to have, right? You need a heart and a brain. And I think some of it comes down to what I'm talking about. And some of the thing is like the left wants to get rid of the church, and it's like, well, the church is what should take care of people. Actually, the government shouldn't do that. When the government does that, it always falls into some bad situation. Like examples like that. But I just kind of also want to get done with this, so I'm going to go back to the Elon Musk thing before I forget my point. Elon Musk is not a federal employee, right? So I don't know. Like when you go into Daniel, you have Daniel 7, and then I explain that all the other ones seem to be like almost retellings of what's happening, like symbolic retellings of what's happening in Daniel 7. But one of the things when I was reading this the other day, check on this. Let's see. He will turn. It's this part that I'm talking about, but I also found this was interesting. It says he will turn on the strongholds of his own country, but will stumble, fall, and never be seen again. I mean, is that Trump? In his place, there will rise a man. No, maybe that's Biden, or it basically has to do with the final times of the ends. But these things are applied to other people like Antiochus Epiphanes and different things like that. So, but what is going on with Elon Musk and how he's operating here? I'm not saying this is him, but goddamn, it sounds exactly like what it says here. And when I saw that this was going on, I was gonna even say something like, I don't think that this is the beast from the earth, but when it says this, it says, "In his place there will rise a wretch. He will not be given royal honors, but will insinuate himself into them in his own time and gain possession of the kingdom by intrigue." So, and armies too will be routed and crushed by him, the prince of the covenant too. Still conspiring, he will go from treachery to treachery, ever growing stronger despite the smallness of his following. In his own time, he will invade the richest provinces, acting like as his fathers or his fathers' fathers never acted, distributing plunder, spoil, and wealth among them, plotting his stratagems against fortresses for a time. Like my whole point with this is the idea of someone who's not given royal honors in modern terms, who's not given governmental authority by like being an elected official, right? You aren't the president, executor, leader of the executor here in America. I don't even think he's saying he's not even a federal employee. He's someone that spent a lot of money to help get Trump elected. And not to say that a bunch of celebrities didn't spend a bunch of different money on Kamala. Kamala was just a terrible fucking candidate. Both the options for the Democrats were bad candidates. So just being honest here. Um, but when it's talking about this, he's not a federal employee, but he's causing like chaos. I can understand the idea of like making the United States government slimmer to save money because like do you care about what your taxes go to if you're going to be paying taxes? If $50 million in condoms for Palestine, you know what I mean, for Gaza, how much money could that buy here in Houston? Like what? I mean, not how much money. What does that buy here in Houston, Texas? $50 million. $50 million would be a nice boost for the city of Houston for the government, and we're the fourth largest city in the United States. Why the fuck would that money go to, uh, like for our local government here? We have issues with, not having enough money. They're talking about instituting a tax to like on recycling here. A tax on fucking recycling, and you want to send $50 million to Gaza so you can buy them condoms? Are you out of your fucking mind? That is something that should be ended. Okay, there's plenty of things in the government where our government's spending stupid money on bullshit that they don't need to. That should be going to the American people. Like what I just said, like the city of Houston is like looking for ways to make more money so that it can do basic like like they're literally talking about this year instituting a fee, a monthly fee, like a non-insignificant, not like $5, like a $20 or $30 monthly fee or some shit like that, so that the waste management can keep working well. What the fuck are we paying federal taxes for? You know what I mean? Like, what's the whole purpose of the federal income tax? If it's going to fucking foreign countries to fund literal bullshit. Condoms for Gaza? Are you out of your fucking mind? So, the fact that, like, local governments actually need that money, the people in North Carolina that got hit by the thing, even the people in the Palace that got hit by Hurricane Helene or the Palisades, both those things you can see, like me doing hurricane stuff, it looks like, the fire stuff. And I'm still staying like, well, the American money should at least go back to like doing stuff there, not fucking condoms for Gaza or whatever other bullshit our government's spending money on, which is a lot. There's a lot of bullshit. U.S. aid, people shouldn't complain about them closing U.S. aid. U.S. aid should go to aiding countries for a short time so that they can get on their feet. Even in some of my classes, U.S. aid was described as a thing that the CIA and different like things would use to destabilize country by giving aid to certain countries so that the farmers would literally stop doing the work that since they're just getting the fucking wheat or whatever from US aid, and then so it gets them to stop working. There's no reason for them doing farming, so they go do other shit, and then you could cut them off of that aid, and then their farming industry is destabilized, and then they need to look for another source to to make up for it because all their farmers are doing basically got undercut by the free aid that was given to whatever. So that's some type of shit that U.S. aid does. I can understand giving people short-term aid to help countries in need or like FEMA type situations or whatever, but that's not how it's used. Okay, there needs to be intelligence and wisdom with these things, and I don't see it. You know what I mean? And anyway, my point with this is that I think we're damn close to this. All these periods of times that it talks about 1260 days, 1335 days, blah 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 blah, are all very close to the amount of time like here. Hold on. Presidential term is 1,461 days. So 1,260 days is, like I said, at about 6.5 months. All right. If we add from today, actually, if we go to when is the next election from now, right? If we go to the next election. What is it? November 6th. I don't go vote. I don't like either of the candidates, but you know what I'm saying? Like, here we go. So it just said that was the next one. So we'll subtract. So like May 27th. Um, what what about 1,335 days? What about that? March 13th. We're getting very close to today. You get what I mean? Look for events to happen on both of those days. You know, when it talks about a time, 2 times, and a half time. May 7th. So I'm thinking something, as I've been saying, I think something happens around either right after my birthday or right before my birthday of this year. This is going to be the first election where I'm going to be old enough to where you could vote for me as president. So, I mean, I literally could be the president, and I could be 48, is my point. And this is also the first election where it looks like, at least in my lifetime, where they're trying to change the law so Donald Trump can run a third term. And he's going to be like 82 then anyway. But so why would you want an 82-year-old? It just doesn't make sense to me. But what is, if we go to today, what is 1,260 days from now? What about 1,335? So again, you're getting pretty close to the date. So I think some things are going to happen here in the next few days. I mean, in the next few months, and like I think there's going to just be like, you know, what's going to happen fucking tomorrow? Trump just started these tariffs, and remember in Revelation, right? The whole mark of the beast thing is related to buying and selling and trading, right? And if you go at the seals, when it talks at the seals, what's happening at the seals? Um, there's the one on the white horse with the bow and given the victor's crown and to go from victory to victory. There's the and you know, is that Jesus or is that me or what's going on there? But I can say this, um, it's the first horseman. That's what it is. Because Jesus is riding a white horse too. People say this is a false Jesus, but it's like I don't know about that. And also remember the bow thing from Proverbs seems to be talking about having children or something. Um, and the arrows. But okay, when he broke the second seal, war, right? War. That's what this one represents. And I can see wars breaking out. I can already see even in Africa different conflicts breaking out. I can see, you know, China saber rattling more against Taiwan. I can see all that. I mean, I can see that there's already war in Europe, literally Ukraine. There's war in Israel. There's war in. It looks to me like Trump is about to go to war with the cartels. It looks like, you know what I mean. It's just war. I just see that war is coming. Uh, and this is like, it seems like what this is talking about here is again the sword of Yahweh. So I don't think that this is like a negative thing, right? I mean, I think it's a negative thing in terms of war, but it's like Yahweh calls for the sword to go do the slaughtering, as it says. So I don't think, and what I mean by a negative is, I don't think that this isn't something that Yahweh isn't um, calling for, like the sword polished to slaughter is what it says, like, you know, to flash like lightning. When he breaks the third seal, I heard an animal shout, "Come!" Immediately, a black horse appeared, and the rider was holding a pair of scales. And I seemed to hear a voice shout from among the four animals and say, a ration of corn for a day's wages and 3 rations of barley for a day's wages, but do not tamper with the oil or wine. In other words, actual foodstuffs are going to be super expensive, but like, bullshit things like champagne and whatever that the wealthy are going to be consuming, like wine and oil, those are representative of like luxury goods. Don't fuck with those. But like, you know what I mean? The actual wheat. I was just watching a thing where Peter Zihan was talking about wheat production is being pushed out into like it's just more like there's more value in using those lands for all sorts of other things. So wheat's kind of being marginalized, and it's like at a certain point it's like, well, are we going to be able to even provide enough, like probably for America, but I mean, there's only so many places that produce enough wheat to really supply a lot of people. um so that's a quick overview of that part, but then this part is uh, a fourth of the world is given over to plague and Hades, and they're given authority over a quarter of the earth to kill by the sword. So it talks about that up here already. It's, by famine, plague, and wild beasts. So I'm assuming famine and plague do the most of that. This is where famine comes from. This is plague, right? So plague and wild beasts, maybe, but in the least, this is plague. So maybe the first horse has to do with wild beasts, but for sure. And I don't know if this means wild beasts, because the same word here, wild beasts, it could be wild animals, but it's the same. I'm pretty sure it's the word therion, which is, while this is mentioned in Ezekiel, like literal wild beasts, this word therion is the word like the beast. Like when I'm saying Trump or whoever, the beast from the earth or the beast from that's the same word. So venomous people, maybe. But it's this is the one that I'm associating with Jezebel, because she dies of some kind of, she gets thrown on a sick bed. So what I think is going to happen here is if Alessandra Ambrosio is Jezebel, like I'm suggesting, like I think is the case. What my assumption? Oh, it's foggy. That's a nice view. We'll just use this one. My suggestion here is where it's is that this part happens, and remember, a quarter of the earth is like 2 billion people at this point, a little over, and then later on it says a third of the earth will die in like almost a single hour at the sixth trumpet, sixth seal thing. I think that's right here, sixth trumpet, plague, seal, plague, trumpet, seal at the sixth trumpet. But I mean, I think it's also, like I said, it's just the exact same time as the trumpets and seals. That's why this is like the final one, and then after this, everything is already like the seventh seal is already knocked in place for sure. And I'm pretty sure the earthquake that's spoken about here is the earthquake from I'm guessing it's the earthquake from the two witnesses that when they go around for 1260 days. Um, Else, it's an earthquake that precedes that forces the point that this is going on. And then 1260 days after that, an even bigger earthquake happens. But what I think is what it's saying is that there's an earthquake in Israel that kills 7,000 people. So it's one of those. There might be two earthquakes because it mentions different earthquakes, but a violent earthquake, and basically it seems like when the way it describes it, the violent earthquake, the sun went as black as coarse sackcloth, the moon turned as red as blood all over, stars of the sky fell to earth like twigs, everything is rolled up, like a like a like a let's see, the stars of the sky fell onto the earth like figs dropping from a fig tree when a high wind shakes it. The sky disappeared like a scroll rolling up, and all the mountains and islands were shaken from their places. Then all the earthly rulers, governors, and commanders, the rich men and the men of influence, the whole population, the slaves and citizens, took to the mountains to hide among in the caves and rocks. They said to the mountains and the rocks, fall on us and hide us away from the one who sits on the throne and from the anger of the Lamb. for the great day of his anger has come, and who can survive it? So my guess is that this is also the Armageddon period and everything, and you know, happens after the 3.5 days where the witnesses go, and then they're brought back to life and called back up to the throne, and then earthquake, and 7,000 people die. And I'm thinking that's in Jerusalem. That's my guess. And then that proves out the Jews don't have anything like this that explains this exactly like that in their thing. That's why it would be like Christianity is clearly true. Jesus was the king of the Jews, and the rabbis are lying about what the rabbis are clearly lying. But it's like now it's like it is indisputable, and nobody's gonna want to be called a rabbi at that point, because if they didn't call it, like if they weren't saying this is what was gonna happen, people are gonna want their scalp, essentially. You get what I'm saying? So like it's gonna be so odd. Like you're not gonna be calling yourself a rabbi if this happens exactly like the Bible says it's going to. So the last part of this is like, doesn't this sound like when it talks about the earthquake and the stars of the sky, like the sun turns black and the moon turns red, and like the stars of the sky fall to the earth, and like sky disappears like a scrolling up? That sounds like at the end of the Matrix Online. It sounds like a construct, like the world is a construct, just like melts down, and almost like a computer. You know what I mean? And I remember playing the Matrix Online, and this is the last thing I'm gonna. It reminds me of this, like where the sky is like there's eyes all over it, and it's not. I'm not saying this is what's gonna happen. I'm saying like this is the vibe of what it's like the end. The end has come, and like the sky rolls up like a scroll is what it says. I mean,
The skies went clear in Meridian Park. It could be a good sign, actually. This DJ circuit reporting in on the algorithm.
you know, something like that. You know, where it's like, hold on. Do I think that everybody's gonna be folded up like Rick Sanchez in Shoney's? Or no, Rick Sanchez doesn't fold up. I'm sorry. What's his name? The hold on. Oh, like this part. Hold on.
Anyway, that's how I escaped from space prison. Oh, scary place.
Wow, Rick, that's one heck of a story. I sure do wish I could have been there to see it happen.
Oh, come on. Who wants to watch a mad scientist?
Why don't we just end this with this comedy, and then this has nothing to do other than it's funny, and like the people folding up reminds me of what happens to Jerry here. That's what his name is, Jerry. All right. And so we'll watch this, and then I'm done.
Anyway, that's how.
And if I had to mute this part, then there's no loss. Okay. So.
Anyway, that's how I escaped from space prison. Oh, scary place.
Wow, Rick, that's one heck of a story. I sure do wish I could have been there to see it happen.
Oh, come on. Who wants to watch a mad scientist use handmade sci-fi tools to take out highly trained alien guards when we can sit here and be a family at Shoney's?
Dad, it's great to have you back no matter where we are, but wouldn't you like to go home?
Emotionally speaking, honey, Shoney's is my home.
Yeah, but you just got out of prison. I mean, how much of a step up from that is...
Jerry, get out of the booth, take all your clothes off, and fold yourself 12 times.
You got it.
Didn't that look like the thing for the Matrix Online?
6 folds, huh? What do you guys got me in a Series 9000? You cheap insect didn't think I was worth your best equipment?
Man, I told the moneybugs. I said, you know who this guy is, right? You want me to get intel out of the smartest mammal in the galaxy, you better give me a decent brainalyzer.
Well, you might as well order some pancakes because I don't see the need to leave this part of my brain.
Oh, I think you do. Eventually, you're either going to relax your cerebellum,
Shoney's.
or the Series 9000 is going to turn it into mush.
Relaxed enough?
I admire you, Rick. Rick, here's...
What's going on? It's hard to tell. He may have manifested some sort of butt.
He can do that?
I can see why you chose this family-friendly restaurant to represent your cerebellum. So safe, so comfortable, so Shoney's. But admit it, Rick, you're going crazy cooped up in here. Let's go visit some memories.
Oh, any particular ones? You want to see my first boner, or should we go straight to the moment I discovered interdimensional travel? Ooh, your little flappy doodles are twitching. Does that mean you're aroused, or did you just get a signal that one of your buddies found a grape?
It's arousal. Yes, I'd like very much to visit the memory of you inventing your portal gun.
Yeah, well, tough titties.
There's no tougher titty than a psychotic break, Rick.
Well, that depends on who breaks first. Me or the titty.
Someone special you remember? Is that your memory of her out there, between where you were on 9/11 and your favorite sports blooper? If we stay here, you'll die, along with all your memories. If you take me where I want to go, she'll be there too, won't she?
The day I invented the portal gun is the day I lost her.
Oh, that sounds cool. I can get what I want, and you can say goodbye.
Fine, but I'm driving.
And he's in the background talking about it's just an excuse to take away our freedom on the 9/11 thing. Yeah, clearly, that's the leopard thing, the Arabian leopard thing. But anyway, okay, well, I don't really have anything else to add. That part was just for comedy, and like if I had to mute it, well, then that's why it's muted because copyright. But I don't, just like this will just be added on as like an addendum. Just some of it's just thoughts that I had, like since I said those things, and if it's true, it's true. If it's not, give me a better explanation as to what's going on biblically. Like there are certain things that I know are just I'm more in line with the reality than what like when I'm showing you the thing where the got answers about Christianity is like the Antichrist does this, and it's like, well, you can tell me whatever you think about that, but there is no character called the Antichrist. I've read Revelation how many times? More than I literally know. There is no character called the Antichrist. So when you're saying it like that, you're already phrasing it in a way that it just doesn't match what it says in Revelation. If you say, oh, the beast from the sea does this, or the final head of the beast from the sea, which matches the fourth beast from Revelation, okay, sure, that makes more sense to me. And that character is an Antichrist, of which there are many. Particularly, there are definitely 3 in Revelation. But like to say the Antichrist does this. Which one? Satan, the beast from the sea? The head of the beast from the sea? Any of the other beasts that are part of that 7 heads or whatever? You know what I'm saying? But like, don't give me this bullshit like, the Antichrist. That makes it's just like when I was in high school and like Left Behind came out and they did all these movies, and even my mom, who's not really like, she doesn't read the Bible or whatever that much, but like when she watched it, like this is what she thought the end times was going to be like. And it's like, oh, this isn't what the fuck it says. It literally does not use the word rapture in the Bible. In fact, in the New Testament particularly, it in both of them suggests that no, you aren't going to get out of the end times tribulation. However, some people will be protected during that time period. That is the truth. Like I'm going to suggest this. I think if I'm conquering at the 7 churches of Asia, I'm in some form of tent of testimony, as it describes. But there is not a rapture, and the quickening is not, I think, what people are thinking it is. So, and I do think that we'll be caught up in the clouds, but that word, I don't think that means what people think. I don't think that there's a rapture where you're just taken out of the thing. I do think some people, like probably Christians living here in America, are going to find it considerably, like they're going to feel like they're raptured while people are getting massacred for being Christian in other places around the world. I do think that that's going to be like a real thing. I think when I'm talking about like This is the vantage point of me. This is the vantage point of other Christians. This is the vantage point of like neutral people. And then like the churches is how I see it. The seals is how Christians, maybe some neutral people see it. The trumpets is how like neutral but not Christian sees it. Like maybe people that might change, you know what I mean? That might repent and then follow Jesus and Yahweh. And then the plagues is how people who aren't going to change, they are on the side of Satan. That's how Satan and his people see it. That's why it describes it as if Satan and his people are seeing it. You know what I mean? Or in the least, it describes it in a way that you'd understand. That's how Satan and his people are seeing it. So I don't, when I see that it's talking about, people are talking about like the Antichrist and the 7-year tribulation, I do think it does make, when I'm describing like, yeah, I do think that it looks to me like Trump is going to try to broker a peace plan. I think that's the Trump-Kushner peace plan. I've literally done a video on it. I explain in the video that I think that he's going to betray people, and that's what Christians are saying. And I mean, that's what I've been told. Like, also, I guess I can always show this. What do you think? I'm working in coordination with Satan to do that. I mean, to Satan, Yahweh is Satan. Jesus is Satan to Satan. Satan just means the adversary, right? So to the adversary's adversary is Yahweh and Jesus. That's why Jesus says if Satan is against Satan, then Satan will fall. He's just making a point that the term Satan is a generic title from Hebrew. It's not like an exact name. Some deity is Satan, and I think that's Baal, which is, I think, I'm gonna suggest that Baal is Satan, or Baal, but that's why Jezebel or Jezebel, Balaam or Balaam, Diabolo. The word is Diabolo. Diabolo. I mean, I think it's Baal. That's just what I'm trying to say. And I guess, let's see. I came here to do the Trump-Kushner peace plan thing, which is right here. And, as it says here, Jared Kushner unveils Trump's vision for Middle East peace. So, like, again, the Antichrist will make a 7-year covenant of peace with Israel. So I'm thinking this is actually the beast. So, like, this term, the Antichrist, you mean the beast? Okay. Jared Kushner unveils Trump's vision for Middle East peace and regional transformation. In a recent interview, Jared Kushner, former senior advisor to Donald Trump and architect of the Abraham Accords, revealed plans for expanding the peace agreements. Kushner stated that Saudi Arabia's involvement would be key, with up to 10 additional countries, including Pakistan and Indonesia, expected to join the accords following normalization with Riyadh. Right? Does that make sense? Looking forward, Kushner outlined a vision for an economic bloc connecting Haifa in Israel to Muscat and Oman, fostering trade, technology, investment across the region. He highlighted the dramatic modernization efforts in the Gulf states, particularly among the younger generation, as a driving force for peace and prosperity. Just like in America, when the younger generations is more liberal, and that's in Christian terms, and they, as they get older, generally there's a bend towards conservatism. That's the same thing that goes on, except in Islam, the bend towards conservatism is trying to see the book play out. And the book playing out is inherently against peace with the Jews. It just is. And so Islam is. So I don't think this would ever work, but they don't actually know what the fucking Quran says, else they do, and they're Satan. You know what I mean? They're fine with Satan doing this evil shit. So my guess is that this is the peace plan that's spoken of here, the covenant of peace with Israel. And yeah, I mean, I just like, but again, not called the Antichrist, right? I hope that I had the here. I don't know if I had the fucking my scene was on the correct thing in open broadcasting software, so here you can read what I had on the screen here. But when it says Pakistan and Indonesia and Saudi Arabia, those are all Islamic countries. So I think it's like 10 Islamic kings is my guess. Maybe even the fourth beast might be Saudi Arabia in conjunction with like China or something, or just Saudi Arabia. It's a dragon. I don't know. It's a snake person. And if you're willing to hold up a fake religion in order to, perpetuate whatever Islam perpetuates, which is Saudi Arabia having power in the world because it's, a billion Muslims basically have to go to Saudi Arabia mandated by a fake book. You know what I mean? They are told if they can, they have to go to do the Hajj. Well, then, the trip to Mecca, they have to. They built pseudo-religious Disneyland in fucking the middle of the desert around a cube with a black stone on the corner of the cube, the Kaaba, and it's just a knockoff of the white stone of Israel that is found in Genesis 49, Psalm 118, Revelation 2 at the third church in Pergamum. I mean, and Jesus is the stone, right? So, like, it's either you're kissing and paying homage to Jesus or you're kissing and paying homage to a black stone, which represents, I don't know, black rock or just fucking bullshit. Like, it's some bullshit. That's what it represents. Bullshit, a knockoff, a lie. And if they can get you to believe a lie, then they can get you to believe anything and they can take over the world. And they can't get me to believe this lie. And, if I got to die for Jesus, I will, but I don't think I have to. So I'm not going to say that, like, oh, if I got to die for this, I don't think I had to die for this. I think that's what Revelation's about. I think I've already gone through a lot of the difficult part, but psychologically, some of the difficult part is I do think Alessandra Ambrosio, like, I think she's Jezebel. I think it's I get this distinct feeling. Else, one of the women around the situation is Jezebel, but like it just seems to me like that's probably what it is, that she's Jezebel. Because I have children apparently that I didn't know about until recently. You know what I mean? Like, did I know deep down? Yeah, probably. I seem to know way more than I even know. So like, you know what I mean? Like, and when I remember the things that I know, like when I know the things that I know, I see like things that I have that I remember from like 20 years ago, like a vision of things that I was seeing 20 years ago. Because I don't think I take in time like a normal person. Because I think if I have the spirit of Yahweh in me, and He told me what was all like, at least like what was going to happen, but basically it was like, the idea is like I can't be awake during that period. I wouldn't have made even these same steps. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have done these same things that led to this outcome. And if this is the necessary outcome, who am I to say that Yahweh has it wrong? I'm not like, you know what I mean? This is also why I get to be the guy on the throne, I think, is because I've gone through a situation which is indisputably evil. And they're still trying to make me go through that situation, even though they know I shouldn't, and that, that's not their place to do that, and that they have to illegally do it, and blah, 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 blah. And they've used the police and the government to do this in really fucked up and evil ways. Anyway, worst, like what I think my worst case is, I think I get 10 days in jail, or 10 days in jail, prison, whatever. Yeah, like, but I've already gone through 10 days in jail. So I think I'm already past that. I'm already at the point where publicly I brought out, hey, I think this woman raped me when I was 16, else force bred me. And I think the president, I think people were participating. Like, the presidents are just random fucking people. You know what I mean? They're random celebrities. I mean, in at least this most recent one is, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, other guys were career politicians. Obama was not a career politician yet, but then he became the president, and it's like that created his career. Or he's a senator. That's a career. That's a politician. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that Trump was just a businessman and a fucking celebrity with a TV show. You know what I mean? He wouldn't. So this is what I'm saying. They're just random fucking people, and the fact that they're able to do these things, which are so I mean, I just see upheaval coming, and I don't see anything. I like anything in the next few months, and like I just see this being a fucking difficult period, and like again, I don't like for example, I don't think there should be any illegal immigration. However, I think legal immigration should be massively expanded, and you make sure that everybody coming into the country, you know who they are, you know that they're paying taxes, you know that if they have family here already, you make sure that you just have tabs on everybody. Oh, you want to be here? All right, we need to know what's going on with you. Like we're already doing that with everybody else anyway. That's what it needs to be. You know what I mean? So like, oh, you're already in the country and you've been here for a while. Well, as long as you can prove you're not a fucking criminal and like whatever, it is too expensive to deport everybody. It is like pointless and like it causing disturbance and upheaval. I At the same time, it looks tacky to a degree to go like be waving Mexican flags in America, but I get that America's acting like an asshole right now because it's not representing the will of actually the people. Because I actually think I think more people would agree with what I'm saying. Cut illegal immigration to zero. Bring up normal immigration, like, where people are coming in and they have to go through a process. You expand it drastically. People are going to be coming in the country anyway, right? You expand it drastically. But we got to know who you are, what your business is, what, this, that, or the other. Like, these things make sense. I mean, both Canada and Mexico are neighbors. Like, what does it say about doing to your neighbor? First to your, like, literal neighbor, then to, like, probably as a country, then your neighbors. So I think a strong, just like I'm a fan of soccer, I think that a strong United States national team means a strong Mexican national team. I think when they're strong and they play each other and they get experience by playing each other, it only makes their region stronger. Because currently, the region that the United States and Mexico are in, along with Canada and Panama and Costa Rica and Honduras and Guatemala and Trinidad and Jamaica. Like, it is not the strongest region, honestly. And it's not the strongest region based on skill and tactics and just quality of teams. If there are better teams in the region and they're playing the teams in the region, the reason Europe is so good is because the teams are good and they play each other and they have to be good to compete in that region. Does that make sense? The reason South America is good is because what I just said about Europe. There's good teams in South America, so even the bad teams have to be good, or better than they would otherwise be if they were just playing shitty teams and they didn't have to raise their bar of skill, and their playing level. Same thing like Asia. Asia is in a similar bind. Asia and Africa are in a similar bind to how our region CONCACAF is. CONMEBOL and UEFA are like generally considered a lot better, and again, it's because they have teams in those regions that are good, and you got to play them, so you got to be good, and you can't play them in the same way like in our region. You got to play down like the certain teams will like just play on the worst fields possible to slow the game up and stuff. But that doesn't actually help if you're gonna then go to the World Cup and compete at the World Cup. You aren't gonna do good against teams if your tactic is to beat the other teams in the region by like having a shitty playing surface or shitty conditions or whatever. It's just not going to help you if you actually go to the big show, the World Cup. So my whole point with this is like I'm for our neighbors being strong as well. I don't think that it's a race to the bottom. I don't think it's a zero sum game. I think there are ways to make this not a zero sum game, but the men in positions of power don't give a fuck about that. They just give a fuck about getting theirs. And they think like dumb animals. They don't think like even Elon Musk is supposedly a very intelligent individual, supposedly. But like he doesn't seem to have imagination. in understanding like where things could go. You know, like Rick Sanchez there. Rick Sanchez has imagination. We saw that clip. Elon Musk isn't Rick Sanchez. You know what I'm saying? So, imagination is what you would need to create like an interdimensional portal gun. Not let's go to Mars on rockets. So anyway, all right. Um, that's it. I'm done. I hope you've enjoyed this part 2 or like an addendum or whatever. And if you didn't, I don't give a fuck. I'm just speaking my mind. You're on my YouTube. I don't give a fuck. Leave a comment. I'm just gonna delete it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's if it's a rude comment or whatever. If it's an actual like, oh, this is a question that I have, or something like that, or something real, or like a comment where you're like, yeah, hey, I understand what you're saying that the Antichrist isn't a thing mentioned in Revelation. You're right. Okay, I'm not gonna delete that. You know what I'm saying? But if it's just some bullshit to make me feel bad, why do I have to read that? Spam. I'm all for constructive criticism, but you don't get that on YouTube comments, really. So, not for the most part. So anyway, if you don't like it, I don't give a fuck. Go watch something else. If this is the thing, like hypothetically, you don't like it and you go watch something else, and this is what's going on, you fucked up. So I just don't care. It's not my place to force you until I'm the guy with the power to do all that, and that comes after the court thing that Daniel says in Daniel 7, where a court is held and the books are open. Then I'll have the power to do that. I'll probably be able to fly around on the clouds and have a rod and everything like that. Like, actually, literally. Be like Goku. This is why the Monkey King thing. But, anyway. I'm kind of fucking around with that. But, like, at the same time, like, I don't put it out of reality. I think you can do amazing things. Like, I think the world that is going to exist is so much bigger and more spectacular than people can imagine, and they just don't. Because, like I'm saying, the world is run by people who don't have imagination. What does it say about to enter the kingdom of heaven? It says explicitly, one must become like a child. What do children have? Imaginations and a future. They have a hope for the future. I mean, unless they've had the hope beat out of them or something evil like that. But I haven't, and like they've tried for a long time, and I think I still got imagination, and I also think I have wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and those things are also very, very powerful. So, yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed, and have a blessed one. I'll catch you next time. Whatever things that I'm doing here. Hopefully, I guess we're gonna watch the Super Bowl. What do you think? What do you think? Who's gonna win? Kansas City or Philly? I think the refs are gonna make sure Kansas City wins because the NFL needs that three-peat, and they also, the understanding that I have is after the Chiefs win. Oh, what a surprise! Travis Kelce's gonna propose to Taylor Swift, and and then he's gonna retire. And then the joke is think of the ratings. Why else? And it's just like if I'm in charge of things, I ain't letting that shit fly. It is actually sport. You're going to be watching when I'm the guy on the throne. If we still have sport, I'm sure we'll still have sports in the kingdom. It will actually be sports. It won't be the refs. You know what I mean? Just is what it is. So, all right, have a blessed one. I'll catch you next. Or not. It's not just is what it is, but until the point that it's not, it kind of is. Because I don't see anybody pressuring Roger Goodell that has the authority to. They should. I think it's actually beyond illegal that you're rigging games and people are able to bet on those games. So people are losing money to what amounts to theater, or gaining money to what amounts to theater. It's not sport anymore. And this isn't to take anything away from Patrick Mahomes. He's a great quarterback, but sometimes the team falls apart. You can have a great quarterback and a great tight end or whatever. But, like, again, you got to have all these games that you win by one touchdown. this is not as part of this video of whatever, but I'm just saying these are other thoughts that I have, and this is also why, you know, I don't hear Trump talking about this shit. I'm an American. I like football, and I also like soccer, clearly. And like, you know, he ain't doing fuck all for both of those things. So you know what I'm saying? Like, and I like basketball. Go Rockets. And I like baseball. And in the least, I like seeing the Astros win. And I don't like seeing cheaters. So if they cheated, you know, whatever. But I think everybody's kind of cheating in that one. So anyway, I do like basketball. I play soccer, and you know, I'm not big enough to play football. Maybe I could play running back, but in any instance, I'm done. This is just completely off topic. I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a blessed one. I'll catch you next time. If I miss anything, oh well. I'm sure I'll say it in another video. So, okay. I'll end this in 5 seconds. So, anyway, hope you enjoyed. Later. Yeah.